2 minutes remaining. One minute, 30 seconds remaining. One minute remaining. Forty-five seconds remaining. Thirty seconds remaining. Fifteen seconds. Break ends in 5 seconds.
To infinity and beyond.
He's live. He's nationwide. This is the Zach Gelb Show. Here's your host, Zach Gelb.
Live from the palatial yet not overly ostentatious studios of the Infinity Sports Network. This is a Wednesday edition of the Zach Gelb Show as we come to you live from our 345 Hudson Street studio, sitting on top of the 10th floor, broadcasting to you live across all of our great local Infinity Sports Network affiliates, Sirius XM Channel 158, the free Odyssey app, and of course streaming live on YouTube, youtube.com. is where you could find us. 855-212-4227 is the number to jump on in, 855-212-4227. You could always get at me on Instagram, where I'm straight flexing, or via the good old cesspool of X, Twitter, at Zach Gelb. That's ZACHGELB. We will do a college football fix today, and that will be coming your way from North Carolina as the legendary college football coach Mack Brown will stop by. In the 4 o'clock hour, we, of course, will do a Winkler Wednesday, and we will also have Johnny Lazarus stop by, and he is a great NHL analyst, and he'll be joining us in studio. He's a top 5 hockey podcast in the U.S., and I know Johnny very well, so he'll be stopping by in studio with us. And, of course, we will recap Game 1 of the Eastern Conference Finals, and we will get you set for Game 1 of the Western Conference Finals with Antonio Daniels, Sirius XM NBA Radio. But I need to start the show off today talking about the disappointing game last night between the Boston Celtics and the Indiana Pacers. And like I said, disappointing. And I got Stuart Kovacs and Ryan Botcher here with me all the way up until 6 p.m. Eastern, 3 p.m. Pacific. And Botcher's like, disappointing. What is this dope talking about? Because I'm disappointed with what I saw last night. I'm disappointed that the Indiana Pacers snatched defeat from the jaws of victory in a game that they had won, and they couldn't inbound the basketball, and then they didn't foul when they were up by 3 in less than 10 seconds. Jaylen Brown hits a miraculous 3. The game goes to overtime, and the Celtics win. And I'm also disappointed in Jayson Tatum. That was an empty stat line from Jayson Tatum last night in regulation. I know he finished with 30-something points. He had 10 points in overtime. So at least he finally did elect to wake up in the extra session. But in that fourth quarter, he was dreadful. And I know Derek White's a good player, but how passive was Jayson Tatum in the fourth quarter, basically begging Derek White to will that team to victory and begging Jaylen Brown to will that team to victory. Jayson Tatum's got to be better. You can't have 4 points in the fourth quarter. Because let me be clear about this. I don't think the Pacers got a shot to win this series. I don't. I picked the Celtics in 5 going in. But the goal for the Celtics this year isn't just to get to the NBA Finals. It's to win the damn championship. And you could sleep in the fourth quarter if you're Jayson Tatum against the Indiana Pacers. But you can't be asleep against the winner of the Dallas Mavericks Minnesota Timberwolves series. So that's my feeling after game 1. I'm disappointed because I thought in game 1, with the way that it was playing out, that the Pacers were going to give us a series. And I was just on 560 WQAM. I was doing my weekly spot with Hochman and Crowder. And Channing Crowder goes to me, well, with the way the Pacers played, doesn't that give you a little bit more confidence in the Indiana Pacers moving forward? And I actually think about it the other way, the complete opposite. You played that good of a game. You shot 50-something% from the field. You were surgical on the court. You did everything you could for the majority of the game up until the final 10 seconds, even after surviving a slow start right out of the gate, to win that game. And you walk away with an L. So now, like the Boston Celtics, who have been terrible, putrid in game 2s in this NBA postseason, right? They lost to the Heat in game 2 on their home court. Heat shot the lights out of the building. And then in game 2 up against the Cavs, they dropped that game as well. So they're 0-2 in game 2s this year. But they didn't play good, the Celtics, in game 1. So I would think game 1 is kind of like the coffee that the Celtics needed. And I would anticipate a much cleaner and better effort in game 2 for the Boston Celtics. And if you're trying to make a case for Indiana to be competitive, if you're trying to make a case for Indiana to win this series, they got to split one of these first 2 games. And when you get that close to securing a victory in game 1, but yet so far, why should I double down and believe in you in game 2 to get the job won when you failed to do so in game 1? The Pacers should have won that game. It's clear as clear could be. Like, think of any Boston Celtics fan that you know. You know, my uncle's brother, David, who I'm very close with, he's texting me with 30 seconds left, 40 seconds left. The fat lady's singing this game is over. Dave Portnoy of Barstool Sports, he was recording an instant reaction video talking about his frustration with the Celtics, and he looks up at the TV and he goes, hold on, there's a turnover. And then we know that it led to the Jaylen Brown 3. So the Celtic fan last night, and deservedly so, was ready to pounce. And I'll be honest with you guys, I had tweets ready to go. I was waiting for the final horn, and my fat thumb was going to press send. I was ready to crush Jayson Tatum for that lethargic fourth quarter performance, because I expect better from the Boston Celtics. And they found a way to win the game. Sometimes, and they're a good team, I'm not taking anything away from them, but sometimes in the postseason, you'd rather be lucky than good. And last night, the Celtics were more lucky than good. And you knew once that game got into overtime. It's kind of like in hockey, when you're up 3-2, you look like you're going to win, the other team pulls the goalie, and then they score with 10 seconds left. It's not always the case that the team that scores late in regulation wins in overtime, but the momentum carries over, and you get that feeling like the team that allowed the goal is going to end up losing the game. And once Boston found a way where Brown hits the miraculous 3 in the corner, and then on the other end, I'll give credit to Jayson Tatum. He made the stop. He played good defense, made the stop. Once that horn sounded and you knew they were going into overtime, I thought the Celtics were going to win the game. I did. Because Indiana, as you've seen, to beat this Celtics team, they're going to have to play like almost perfect basketball. You can't really shoot that much better. And we know what Indiana could do on the offensive end. You can't shoot that much better than what Indiana did last night. Indiana, maybe outside of the first few minutes, could not have played a better game. And they threw it right in the paper shredder. They had like the perfect document. You know, like when you're growing up as a kid and you have to write like one of the stupid 12-page papers? They finished the paper. They had the perfect piece of paper. And then, for whatever reason, they went right to the paper shredder and threw their paper right in the shredder, and it poofed right into the paper shredder. And it was over with and done with. They had the game won. So I'm not going to sit here today, and I'm not going to pretend like the Celtics played this great game and Jayson Tatum had some heroic performance. You could tell which talk show hosts today, when they talk about this game, watch the games, and which talk show hosts just read a stat line. Because if you read the stat line last night for Jayson Tatum in game one, you're like, hold on. Who's this bloviating jackass on the radio right now that is shredding Jayson Tatum for having 36 points and 12 rebounds? Right? Like, if I tell you, just with no context, Jayson Tatum had 36 points and 12 rebounds, you're saying, that's a pretty damn good game. But in the fourth quarter, if the Pacers didn't have that boneheaded turnover, and if they could have fouled up three, which I guess Carlisle instructed to do, and then because of the positioning of Siakam, he elected to pull off. And, you know, I thought they should have fouled there. I know everyone's crushing them. But I will say this. I don't think you could have played much better defense. Yes, you should have fouled. But if it then turns into a 4-point play, you know, it was really good defense. Tip your cap to Jaylen Brown for making the shot. But if that ball bounces off the rim and doesn't get a fortuitous bounce and go in, or if that inbounds pass was made and executed, or if the Pacers did foul and let's say the Celtics get 2 free throws and they don't end up winning that game, what's everyone saying today? Everyone is saying, where was Tatum? Where was Waldo in that fourth quarter? 4 points. 4 points. 2 made shots in the fourth quarter. And this is why I'm tough on Tatum today. Even though, to his credit, and Jaylen Brown said it after the game, hey, Tatum finally woke up. That's a good job by Jaylen Brown. Let me play that for you real quickly. This was Jaylen Brown on ESPN to Lisa Salters, who I like Lisa Salters. I do. I think she does a very good job. Mike Breen does a very good job. I'll get to Doris Burke and J.J. Redick coming up in about 10 minutes. Jeez Louise. Those two in a broadcast booth for a Eastern Conference Finals game. What are we doing? I felt like I was watching Game 3 of the regular season. I thought we were watching, no disrespect to Ice Cube, the Big 3 League. That did not feel like an Eastern Conference Finals game with Doris Burke and J.J. Redick in the booth. No energy whatsoever. But I'll get into them in a few minutes. But this is Jaylen Brown talking to Lisa Salters after the game on what was different in overtime.
What was the difference in overtime?
I think we just made some momentum plays. JT finally woke up, made some baskets, and we was able to make some plays towards the end. But we got to be better, to be honest. But I'll take the win tonight.
100% dead on. They need to be better. And you don't usually hear a player, and I get Brown is a star in terms of his contract. He's a very good player. He's not a top 10 player in the league. He's not elite. And he's a big leader on that team, but we all know the best player on that team is Jayson Tatum. But Brown needed to say that last night. We got to play better, and JT finally woke up in overtime. Because if that game doesn't get to overtime, he's got 26 points. And you only have 4 in the fourth quarter. So the Celtics need to be better. Tatum needs to be better. But with all that being said, Celtics won the game. And when they win that game, I think they're going to come out with the big effort in game 2. And I believe they're going to go back to Indiana up 2-0. They'll probably dog one of those games in Indiana, split. And I believe my prediction that I made before the series started yesterday of Celtics in 5 will end up being true. I believe the Celtics will win this series, and I don't think they're going to take more than 5 games. Like, if they would have lost last night, all right, then you could see this one going 6. But winning a game that they had no business in winning swings the momentum that was already in favor of the Celtics a big way into the Boston Celtics. But they have to be better. Because in the Eastern Conference, let's call it what it is. Miami was hurt. Bucks were hurt. Knicks, they were playing well. They got hurt. And they were hurt going in even with Julius Randle. And the Pacers, I think, have maxed out. The Pacers, their ceiling, I think, is just getting to this round. I don't think the Pacers can win 4 more games to get to the NBA Finals. The Celtics have not been tested yet this postseason. And I don't really give a rat's ass what happened in the East. And I said this from the start because it was a foregone conclusion when you entered the postseason. And especially after the first round, you knew the Celtics were going to get to the NBA Finals this year. But it's not about just getting there. You need to win a championship. And if you give that up and down, at times looking lost offensively effort in the fourth quarter against Luka and Kyrie or against Anthony Edwards and the Minnesota Timberwolves, you will lose in the NBA Finals. So you could survive last night, but you can't replicate what you did last night because then you were putting your hand on the stove. And sometimes the stove isn't on when you put your hand on the stove. But one day it's going to be on, and then like in previous years, you're going to get burned. It is the Zach Gelb Show on the Infinity Sports Network, 855-212-4227. What's your reaction from Game 1 of the Eastern Conference Finals? As you can tell, mine is disappointment. Disappointment with the Celtics' fourth quarter effort, and also disappointment with Indiana losing a game that they should have won. When we return, it looks like the NBA is going to be off of TNT after next season, which stinks. And talking about stinking, that ESPN booth last night. Yikes. We'll react to that next.
You're in a 5-minute break. Four minutes remaining. Three minutes, 30 seconds remaining. Three minutes remaining. Two minutes, 30 seconds remaining. Two minutes remaining. 1 minute, 30 seconds remaining. One minute remaining. Forty-five seconds remaining. Thirty seconds remaining. Fifteen seconds. Break ends in 5 seconds.
Welcome back to the Infinity Sports Network.
All righty, it is the Zach Gelb Show on the Infinity Sports Network. This is the unfortunate news. It appears this has been long thought. It seemed like it was a foregone conclusion. There was a little bit of fake hope, I think, and fake optimism. There was a minuscule chance, but it does appear that next season is going to be the final season of Inside the NBA on TNT, as it looks like TNT is going to lose their NBA rights, and you're going to have them. I believe they're going, it's like ESPN, NBC, and I think Amazon is involved in it, but that just stinks. And here's why it stinks. It stinks because the NBA regular season, because of that spineless Silver, the commissioner, is so boring. Look at the teams that actually are good regular season teams. You look at a team like Indiana. You look at a team like the Knicks. It's because they play. They try hard. But there's so many teams that should be a lot better in the NBA regular season that aren't because of all this load management crap. And look how many guys miss games and they're still hurt for the postseason. And then look at the guys that do play, and they get hurt for the postseason. So it's kind of damned if you do, damned if you don't. But a lot of times when they have those double headers during the week on TNT, the games actually, I don't even give a rat's ass about them. There's a lot of times when I do the 6 to 10 p.m. Eastern time shift here where I'd watch the first game, then I'd go home, and I just flip on Inside the NBA on TNT for the commentary. Because Charles Barkley, Kenny Smith, Ernie Johnson, and Shaq, they're an institution when it comes to covering the NBA, especially Kenny and Charles and EJ, and then they added Shaq all those years ago. But it's just so unfortunate. I don't know what NBC's going to do. NBC, they usually do a good job when it comes to broadcasts. But not having that booth creates a lot of questions. I'm sure they could go get Shaq and Charles and Kenny, but Ernie said that he's staying with Turner. So, I don't know who you're going to end up poaching and who you're going to end up taking. I always thought Adam Lefko was going to replace Ernie Johnson whenever Ernie elected to hang it up. So does Lefko, who's friendly with Shaq, and I think they do a podcast together, does he get poached by NBC? Does NBC have someone in mind? I don't know. So it just stinks because next year is going to be an end of an era, assuming that it goes the way that it's being reported today and that it's been going the last few weeks and just the general sentiment around it, that we're going to lose Inside the NBA. But it's rare where, because a lot of times, and I do think there's some self-righteousness from people in our business. There's a shock. I think sometimes people make a bigger deal than what we actually need to make out of the announcers. But for a sport like the NBA, where the regular season product a lot of times is like dog crap, having a great studio show that is opinionated, that is fun. A lot of times in the regular season, when we're talking about the NBA, it's moments from inside the NBA. And that's just the fact. So you need to have a strong studio with the NBA coverage. Like NFL, if you have a crappy studio show, you'll survive. Because every game means something. In the NBA, I hate to break it to you, and I don't think I'm breaking news to anybody, but every game clearly does not matter. So that stinks. We'll see how they end up ironing out the details and what NBC is going to do and how many people they're going to poach from Turner. And you also start to wonder, like Kevin Harlan, who I love. Kevin Harlan's also an employee at CBS here at Westwood 1-2. Or, will CBS allow him to go to NBC and start calling games? Like Kevin Harlan. Kevin Harlan and Ian Eagle, I think pound for pound today, are the two most well-rounded broadcasters that we have. They both do football. They both do basketball. Like, they are tremendous. They absolutely are. But that stinks that it seems like inside the NBA will be no more after this year. Now, I got to get to ESPN's booth last night. And this is not the first time I've said this. Mike Breen is great. You tune in, and I know he missed a few calls last night, but probably because his back is hurting him from all the carrying he has to do with the other two people he's working with in this series. And it's probably frustrating him, and that's why you get a few Breen slip-ups, I would imagine. But Mike Breen is a creme de la creme broadcaster. Like, there's certain voices that you tune in, and it's a big game. Even if it's not a big game, it just feels like a big game. Before the whole Amazon thing, whenever you heard Al Michaels, you felt like it was a big game. Jim Nantz, you tune in, big game. Kevin Harlan, big game feel. Ian Eagle, big game feel. Joe Buck, big game feel. Mike Breen, big game feel. When you tune in, there's certain broadcasters, even if it's game 22 of the regular season, the broadcast just feels bigger when those guys are broadcasting it. But what ESPN is putting out in their booth right now is disgraceful. It's not a number one booth. And I get it by design. It was supposed to be Doc Rivers. And I read the Andrew Marchand article where Andrew Marchand said Jeff Van Gundy didn't get kicked out because he was critical of the officiating. People said that ESPN sources, I guess, or league sources told Andrew Marchand they were fearful that Van Gundy was going to return to coaching. Now, hold on. That's why that is a load of crap. It's because Spineless Silver, the commissioner, has no backbone, and he was annoyed, probably, guarantee it, that Jeff Van Gundy was often very critical of the officials. So you're telling me you had to push Van Gundy out because you were apprehensive about him going back to coaching, and then the guy you hire is Doc Rivers, who was going to get back into coaching on the first team that offered him a job. And guess what? That happened midway through the season. And you replace him now with J.J. Redick, who in all likelihood is going to be the next coach of the Lakers. And Doris Burke is a good broadcaster. J.J. Redick, even though I don't like him, he could be a good broadcaster. But they are not Eastern Conference Final, eventually NBA Final material. Breen is. But can Doris Burke and J.J. Redick, can we give them a little coffee? I heard Perloff this morning say that Jayson Tatum needs smelling salts. How about the broadcasting booth gets a little smelling salts? There was no energy. You would have thought that was game 12 of the regular season. And how many times is Breen just sitting there setting up Burke or Redick to actually speak? You are a broadcaster. When you don't speak, that is a problem. And there's so many stretches where Breen is just talking and talking and talking, lets the game breathe, opens and sets up his color analysts, and they say nothing. Absolutely nothing. So that booth, hey, everyone slammed the Booger McFarland, Jason Witten, and Joe Tessitore booth. That was bad. If it wasn't for Breen, this may be one of the worst booths I've ever heard. That's how bad it is. And J.J. Redick, can you smile? Can you be a little happy one time? His post-game press conferences when he becomes the head coach of the Lakers, when some reporter, and sometimes these reporters, they think they're know-it-alls, right? And they try to talk the actual X's and O's of the game, which drives me bonkers. They're going to ask him a question that he doesn't like, and you thought Mike Malone was bad after losing. But just wait till J.J. Redick. So that booth is really bad. And I'm not even saying Van Gundy and Mark Jackson was the greatest booth of all time. Don't get me wrong, it was a really good booth. But people think it's the greatest booth of all time. It wasn't. But it was entertaining, it was fun, and it was a good listen. And when you tuned in, it felt like there were actually big games for the big games that they were calling. With Breen and Doris Burke and also J.J. Redick, they're like the Phoenix Suns. They are. Mike Breen is a great player. We all know that. He's a great announcer. But Doris Burke and J.J. Redick are like Bradley Beal in that booth with that big three. That's how bad it was. And I sent that tweet out last night. I can't tell you how many people in the media world then DM'd me. And we're like, I'm not going to say it's publicly, but you're spot on with this booth. This booth is atrocious. I got at least 6 or 7 DMs from broadcasters telling me how bad that booth was and how tough of a listen that was last night. All right, it's time for a college football fix. We'll do that when we come on back. Legendary college football coach Mack Brown, who's, of course, the head coach at UNC. He'll join us on the other side. But first up with the latest Infinity Sports Network update, here he is, Manny Rodriguez.
Infinity Sports Network Sports Flash.
All right, Zach, we're sponsored by Progressive Insurance. Drivers who switch and save with Progressive save nearly $750 on average. Call or click today and find out if we could save you hundreds on your car insurance. The NBA playoffs will continue tonight. The Timberwolves will host the Mavericks in Game 1 of the Western Conference Finals tonight. Tip-off from Target Center is slated for 8:30 Eastern. NHL, the Los Angeles Kings removed the interim tag and named Jim Hiller as the club's 30th head coach in franchise history. Stanley Cup playoffs, the Rangers will host the Panthers in Game 1 of the Eastern Conference Final tonight. Opening faceoff from Madison Square Garden is scheduled for 8 Eastern. Baseball matinees, Twins have a 3-1 lead on the Nationals in the 9th. Guardians have flipped the score on the Mets. They now lead 4-3 8th inning. Orioles have a 3-0 lead on the Cardinals in the 4th inning, but they are in a rain delay. Earlier today, those two finished off last night's suspended game. Nolan Gorman's 6th-inning blast was the difference as the Cardinals defeated the O's 3-1. The Royals, they lead the Tigers in the 5th inning, 3-0. Angels lead the Astros 2-0. They, too, are in the 5th inning. I'm Manny Rodriguez.
This is the Infinity Sports Network. Follow us on X and like us on Facebook. Our handle is @INF Sportsnet on X and INF Sportsnet for Facebook.
You're in a 5-minute break. Four minutes, 30 seconds remaining. Four minutes remaining. Three minutes, 30 seconds remaining. 3 minutes remaining. Two minutes, 30 seconds remaining. Two minutes remaining. One minute, 30 seconds remaining. One minute remaining. Forty-five seconds remaining. Thirty seconds remaining. Fifteen seconds. Break ends in 5 seconds.
We miss college football.
Milrose stands in. He throws into the end zone. He caught it. It's caught by Isaiah Bond in the corner of the end zone. Touchdown, Alabama.
We can't wait for the 2024 season.
Hands it off to Edwards, who will bounce it outside. Got him at 40. Got him at 30. Donovan Edwards is in the clear. His second touchdown run of the ball game. This time from 46 yards. And Michigan has taken a 13-3 lead on the second touchdown of the night from the man who was not tripping.
And we're counting down the days to kick off.
Are we there yet?
No.
Are we there yet?
I said no.
Are we there yet?
What's wrong with your ears?
Here is your college football fix, only on the Zach Gelb Show.
All right, it is a college football fix right here on the Zach Gelb Show on the Infinity Sports Network. We are 99 days away until UNC kicks off its season in Minnesota up against the Golden Gophers. And now joining us is a legendary college football coach. He is the head coach of the Tar Heels, and that, of course, is Coach Mack Brown. Coach, appreciate the time as always. Thanks so much for doing it, and how are you?
Zach, I'm doing great. Thanks for having me on, and those 99 days are going to go fast.
Yeah, they'll be here before you know it, and it also helps when you have a running back like Omarion Hampton and what he was able to do a year ago, over 1,500 rushing yards and 15 rushing touchdowns. Just how do you take a look back at his special season from a year ago?
Zach, he's one of the best players in the country, and we've had some great running backs here and at Texas, and he's as good as any of them. I mean, he's just he's big, he's strong, he runs 4.4, he's 220. He's got tremendous hands. He's very unselfish. He's a guy with our modern day transfer portal that had opportunities to go in a lot of different places for a lot of money. And he's very unselfish. He decided to stay here because he knows we've got a chance to run the ball well. And as I've learned, Zach, great running backs make those offensive linemen look better. So they can help them as well.
As good as any running back you coach Ricky Williams in 1998 with his special season. That's how good Omarion Hampton can continue to be?
He can. He can be that good because Ricky was a great player, obviously, Heisman Trophy winner, one of the best ever. And you've got so many guys like Cedric Benson and Jamal Charles and Selvin Young and some great ones that we had here as well with Natron Means and Randy Jordan. And but this guy's in that group. And it's hard when you have different eras to say this one's better than that one. But Zach, this guy's got it all.
So you talked about the NIL, and when you have a player that has that much success, a lot of people are going to try to drive him away from your program. Was that a legitimate fear this offseason that you were going to lose him, or did you kind of think everything was going to play out in your favor?
Well, it wasn't a fear because of who he is. What we've tried to do, Zach, is just change our recruiting, our strategy. And we've tried to get guys that want to be here, guys that if they play really well, if they're not going to take money coming in, then after 2 years, they're not going to take money because they play well. Who wants to be here and who's going to stay here? And we've actually only lost one player that was bought off our campus. So that's pretty good. But we're having to look at a smaller group. Our pool is much smaller academically and financially, but also who wants to be here. And that Cayman Rucker is another one. Power Eccles. There were a number of guys on our team that could have gone a lot of other places, and they just decided that this is where they came to school and this is where they want to stay.
How difficult of an adjustment has it been with NIL? Because with someone like yourself that has been around the game for a long time, you're used to doing things a certain way, and obviously the landscape is changing. I think it's for the better, but you would also want a little bit more just controlled kind of chaos, as I would like to say, with all the NIL stuff.
Yeah, Zach, you can sit around and gripe about what's wrong with it, or you can be one of those guys that handles it, changes the narrative with it, and then tries to make it better for college football because it is good that the young guys are getting paid. I said on a podcast the other day that guys didn't ask for this. And somebody said, well, they've been getting paid for years. Well, they have. It was cheating then. It was different. But not everybody is that way. The large majority of the kids didn't ask for money. They didn't ask for money before. Just a few great ones were getting paid. And now most of the kids on your team, they'd like to be treated like everybody else in college football, but they're not walking around like a lot of people think, say, give me a new card. If you don't do this, I'm leaving. And that's not the way our team works at all. Most of our guys just say, Coach, treat me fair. Whatever the rules are, I know you didn't make them. And I've told them, we've been behind in NIL, so be patient with me and we'll raise some money. But you've got a narrative here with 28 sports, and you've got a narrative for years that you told your boosters, top supporters, don't pay kids. Now you're saying, we need to pay them. And then you said, don't have agents because North Carolina got in trouble for some agents before. Now we're saying they've all got agents. So it's a learning process for all of us. But Zach, one of the things that a lot of my buddies and I talked about that are older in this business when COVID came, we can either gripe about COVID because we've never had COVID before, or we can learn how to coach with COVID. Well, you can either gripe about the transfer portal and NIL. It is what it is. There are some things that need to be changed, but until they're changed, we've all got to figure out a narrative to give us a chance to be the best we can be.
The great Mack Brown is here with us. I'm a Temple Owl coach, so I know your dear friend Kevin Nagandi well. I also know your new defensive coordinator, the Minister of Mayhem, I believe they call him, in Jeff Collins. What do you think Jeff could bring to the defense that you guys haven't had the last few years?
Jeff brings a lot of experience as a head coach at two different places. He brings experience as a top 25 defensive coordinator at Mississippi State and Florida. He's put a lot of guys in the league, which is what recruits want to hear because they want to be able to be taught to get there. And the thing that I saw this spring, Zach, he's got so much energy. He exudes energy. He's very inclusive. The whole defensive staff and the team's bought in. But if a receiver makes a great catch, he will sprint across the field and chest bump the receiver and say, "That's what we need, man. Challenge us to make us better." And the kids have really enjoyed him being here, and they're fired up about playing for him next fall.
You may want to get him a scooter, Coach, because I'm a little afraid if Jeff Collins is running across a practice field, you're going to have an Achilles injury with your defensive coordinator.
I don't think there's any question that we told him he needs to slow down.
That's awesome. Let me get to your quarterback battle. How's it been going?
It's good. We've got really three older quarterbacks now with Jacoby Criswell coming in. He's coming back from Arkansas, but you've got Connor Harold, who's played some for us, that runs 4.4, and he has really made some great plays since he's been here. Just hadn't got a lot of experience. And then you've got just the opposite, Max Johnson, that was at LSU and Texas A&M, that comes in with over 900 passes in the SEC, and he's played on the big stage a lot. So those guys have a real healthy competition right now. They were going back and forth in the spring, and it is a lot of people say, well, they're not going to pick one till the fall because they want both of them to stay and all that. This is a legitimate competition. That they could both play today. We're really lucky that we've got two that can play. So we're going to watch them through the summer workouts. We'll watch them in preseason, and then just figure out who gives us the best chance to win.
How do you know when it's time to announce the starter? Because like it said, it seems like this is going to go right down to the wire.
Yeah, usually in my experience, unless you know, if you know, go ahead and announce it because they know if you know. But if you don't know, like now or like it was with Jacoby Criswell and Drake May, like it was with Sam Howell, the other couple of guys that we had here, we weren't sure because they were young. So we let them go through the summer. They compete all summer, and it's amazing how your kids will tell you what they think. And you get 6 or 8 of the older guys at the end of the summer, and you say, "What'd you see?" Because we can't watch them throw in the summer. And they'll say, "Coach, it's not close." It was Colt McCoy and Jevin Sneed. I thought Jevin was leading coming out of spring practice. They get back and they said, Colt took over, you'll see.
Wow.
And they said the same thing with Drake a couple of years ago. So that's why I like Zach having all 3 of those guys really lead all summer. They have to compete all summer. They work all summer, but then you get a great report from your older players that you really trusted in the fall.
Coach Mack Brown, what are the Patriots getting in your old quarterback in Drake May, who was the 3rd overall pick a month ago?
They're getting a guy with freakish talent. He can run better than people think he can. He's got length. He's nearly 6'5". He's about 230. He's very accurate. He's a gym rat. He's smart. He competes at the highest level. He's had 2 older brothers win national championships, and they throw that ring in his face. And Zach, he wants to get one, so he's competing hard to get it. But he also is a guy with the it factor. When he walks in the room, everybody stops and turns and looks at him. And they know when he's there. He has that presence, and he'll have that same presence in the locker room for the Patriots. With NIL, he and Sam Howell both made more money than the other kids on the team, and that bothered them some. But in each of those 2 cases, they didn't have a deal with a corporation unless they included some other players. And the team really appreciates that. So they're total team guys. But I think Drake is a guy that'll end up being one of the best ever play.
Coach, a lot of people are wondering what the future of the ACC is going to be. There's been a lot of changes in college football. You being around as long as you have, just what do you think this will eventually go to down the road and what college football will look like? Are we going to just one Super League, you think?
Zach, it's a great question. I was at Texas when we were hours away, I thought, from going to the Pac-12. We had talked about recruiting areas. We had talked about changes in recruiting. We talked about scheduling. How would you fly to Washington and Washington State? Would you do it on opposite years? We went through all of that, and then it came down to we got Longhorn Network, and everything went away in an hour. So what I've learned is that I sit like you do. I sit and listen. I watch. But I know I've got to beat Minnesota in the opener. So the biggest thing for us is to coach our team. I would think that we're headed toward an NFL model in everything we're doing, and that we don't have a model. And we dropped amateurism, and we really didn't know what we were doing because we've got so many things going on without guidelines. Well, with the settlement that's coming up, that's more money that universities are going to have. With cost of attendance, that's more pressure on athletics directors. With the academic stipend, that's more pressure on athletic directors. So this money's got to come from somewhere. So either you get the ones that can produce that revenue that all play at the top, and everybody else kind of settles in their own area and levels, or somebody got to figure out how everybody's going to get paid, because the players now are going to get paid. So you have to cut sports, or you have to cut personnel. Something has to give, and everybody has to seek better revenue. So I think that's where we're headed, and I think we're going to see money go back in through the universities for NIL at some point. I think we're going to see salary caps at some point. Title IX is still a factor that the NFL doesn't have to deal with. But I do think at some point we may end up seeing 4 divisions like an NFL group, and the ones with the most money are going to be playing at the highest level, and everybody else is going to go back and play for fun.
Last thing I'll ask you, I believe if I'm right on this, your latest contract extension is through 2027. How much longer do you plan on being on the sideline and being a coach in college football?
Zach, I think I read it this morning. I think it's 28.
But you get an extra extension?
Did get another year extension this year. And I did ask Coach Bowden and Coach Paterno were on a Nike trip with me. And one of them was 84 and the other one was 85.
Yeah.
I said, what? No, it was 85 and 86. I said, what are you all doing?
Yeah, right?
We love this. We love the kids. We're having fun. So at Texas, I was tired after 30 years as a head coach, and I started thinking about how do you retire? What do you do? I did that. I enjoyed TV.
Sure.
But I was born to coach, and I'm enjoying this. I'm loving coaching. So it's also more challenging. People think you should quit because of NIL, transfer portal. To me, I like taking negatives and turn them into positives. And these are things that need to be fixed. And I love being part of that. So Sally, my wife Sally, and I decided this time we're not going to sit around and start talking about quitting, because when you do, you don't do as good a job. Because when you think about quitting, you've quit. Because you're slowing down in all areas. And you're not worried about the recruit that's going to play in 3 years. And so what we decided is we're going to work as hard as we can every day. And the day that we feel like it's best for somebody else to take over, then we'll quit. But we're not going to think about it or talk about it. All the opponents talk about it. I thought it was a compliment. I used to worry about it. Now everybody says, well, he's going to quit next year. And I said, what a great thing. They want me to quit.
They're just trying to use that against you on recruiting. You know that. He's the great Mack Brown. Coach, good luck this season. Good luck in the offseason as well. We appreciate the time today.
Thanks, Zach. Thanks for having me on.
There he is, Mack Brown joining us. A little college football fix right here on the Zach Gelb Show on the Infinity Sports Network. Always enjoy our conversations with Coach whenever he does stop by with us. It's also time to Ask the Pros, where you, the listener, gets to ask us a question. It's brought to you by O'Reilly Auto Parts. Simply tweet your question at INF Sportsnet, or at Zach Gelb using the hashtag #AskThePros. Be listening later in the show. We might answer your question. Think O'Reilly Auto Parts for all your car care needs. Get guaranteed low prices and excellent customer service from the professional parts people at O'Reilly Auto Parts. O'Reilly Auto Parts. I don't know why, Stu, and I probably shouldn't do it, but whenever I have a read where it says INF Sportsnet, like whenever I do this show open, I'm like Infinity Sportsnet, I never think of it as Sportsnet. But whenever I see it spelled INF Sportsnet, I just can't help myself. Simply tweet your question at INF Sportsnet, and then I go, Sportsnet. It sounds like I'm in a DJ booth.
It does. To be a remix we have as a rejoin.
You're listening to the Zach Gelb Show on INF Sportsnet. All righty. We will take a break. When we come on back, hopefully I won't be fired when we get back on the air. But Aaron Rodgers, I'm going to try for people to understand my sarcasm when I say this through the microphone. He has been shining. He's been shining like a star in OTAs. Like, what are we doing? I'm reading some of the reporting yesterday about Aaron Rodgers and how greatly he's throwing the football and how he's shining in OTAs. It's really insufferable. I've covered OTAs. They are the most monotonous, waste of time things I've ever had to cover. Like that, you have reporters there. Oh, this guy's going 7 for 7, and this 7-on-7 drill, he's been unbelievable. Oh, this guy has 6 catches for 100 yards. They're wearing shorts and a T-shirt. You know, I don't want to sound like AI. We're talking about practice, though. And people freak out if people don't perform well in practice, and they freak out an excitement if they perform well. But with Aaron Rodgers shining like a star, like a bright star in OTAs. Talk about the Jets on the other side. What's the floor? What's the ceiling for Gang Green? And also, Aaron Rodgers trying to bring hope to the Jets organization. Who are some players right now in the NFL that brings hope to that other team around the NFL, around the league? We'll discuss that on the other side. Johnny Lyles will talk some pucks as well. And Bart Winkle will join us for Winkler Wednesdays, too. All coming up next in hour number 2 right here on the Zach Gelb Show.
You're in a 5-minute break. Four minutes, 30 seconds remaining. Four minutes remaining. Three minutes, 30 seconds remaining. Three minutes remaining. Two minutes, 30 seconds remaining. Two minutes remaining. One minute, 30 seconds remaining. 1 minute remaining. $45 seconds remaining. $30 seconds remaining. $15 seconds. Break ends in 5 seconds.
Infinity and beyond.
He's live. He's nationwide. This is the Zach Gelb Show.
Yo, hour number 2 of our radio program. Rocking and rolling. It is the Zach Gelb Show on the Infinity Sports Network. If you missed any of our conversation with Mack Brown, you can go back on the free Odyssey app, use the rewind function, and listen back to the program from 20 minutes ago. Johnny Lazarus, NHL analyst, will be joining us in studio 20 minutes from now. Game 1 of the Eastern Conference Finals does commence tonight, and I'll be in attendance at the world's most famous arena, Madison Square Garden, for a little Rangers and Panthers. And then you do have, later in the week, we had Pete DeBoer on, the head coach of the Dallas Stars yesterday, and always love my conversation with him. How about Pete DeBoer talking about how he drinks Tito's with a little splash of lime to get through the Stanley Cup playoffs? I thought that was a very good line yesterday from the Stars coach. And that series is really going to be defined by if Dallas could stay out of the penalty box. They had the number 1 PK in the league this year, but Edmonton has the number 1 power play. I like the Stars to win in that series, and I will take my Rangers to win in 7 games. But, I said it going in, I thought the Panthers are the best team in hockey. So you could literally flip a coin here to determine who's going to win this series. I think these two teams are splitting hairs. And I believe the Final Four, right, the Eastern Conference Final and the Western Conference Final, are going to be sensational in pucks. Bart Winkler going to stop by 40 minutes from now for a little Winkler Wednesdays, and we will get back into the NBA right at 5 p.m. Eastern Time with Antonio Daniels, great Sirius XM NBA radio host and also played in the NBA for a bunch of years. But I'm perusing Twitter yesterday, and on Twitter, I saw a lot yesterday about Aaron Rodgers. They're doing like slow-mos of Aaron Rodgers running around on a practice field in shorts and a T-shirt and then throwing the ball down the field. Ooh and ah. It's just the stupidity and jackassery of OTAs where we all obsess about a future Hall of Famer getting back on the practice field and throwing a football. Oh, gee golly. I thought the most entertaining thing from OTAs yesterday with Gang Green was actually Aaron Rodgers revealing that he had a choice to make. And that was either be vice president or try to be vice president and run with RFK Jr. or go play football. Like, here's the funny part to me about Aaron Rodgers, Stu. And Stu, you usually call out when people could be a hypocrite. Wasn't Aaron Rodgers the same dude that said we need to eliminate distractions in the building? Right?
Yes, that is him. Same guy. Yep.
So Rodgers says that. And this entire offseason, and I'm okay with athletes talking about things that aren't football related, but you can't be the, go eliminate distraction guys. And we got to clean up the culture in the New York, New Jersey area with the Jets. And then every single day you're on a podcast, you're getting linked to something, and there's rumors about this. This dude just loves the attention. And there's people in life that are attention whores, right? And that's okay. But Rodgers, he's the guy that loves the attention and loves the drama. And then when you call him out on it and you go, you love the attention and you love the drama, he's like, I'm just being me, bro. I'm just doing me. People just think because my beliefs are different, that I'm a problem. No, you're providing things that don't need to be said. When you are the guy that said, eliminate distractions. Like, everyone remembers this story about you potentially, I can't even believe we're saying this, being vice president of the United, like, we all remember the story. No one has thought of that story since then. I know it's a press conference. You got the New York media, so they're going to ask him about it. But you can nip that in the bud real quick by just saying, I'm only talking about football matters. Football, 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 football. But Rodgers can't help himself. It'd be like if Kim Kardashian, right, if we had her in studio. Hey, it's the Zach Gelb Show with Kim Kardashian. Kim, you love the attention, right? Oh, no, Zach, I don't actually like the attention. Like, could you imagine Kim Kardashian saying she doesn't like attention and drama? But that's what Rodgers kind of does. He says we need to eliminate all these distractions, and then all he's done this offseason has put himself in the news. So, yesterday, Rodgers gets back on the practice field, which is good to see because he's coming off the Achilles injury. I'd rather have Aaron Rodgers on the field than not on the field. I don't want him being vice president of the United States. God forbid. Could you imagine Rodgers actually being vice president of the United States? We would all have to do ayahuasca. You know, maybe it won't be that bad. I've never tried ayahuasca. But if Rodgers became vice president of the United States, I would have to try some ayahuasca. But with the whole Rodgers situation, I think he's going to have a monster season individually. I do. Now, that Jets offensive line is questionable, even with the additions they made. It's going to be Rodgers. It's going to be Kirk Cousins, both coming off Achilles injury. They're vying for comeback player of the year. That's what they are. And I said at the minute he got hurt last year, I think Rodgers is going to bounce back next year and be comeback player of the year. Because even though the Jets are the Jets, right? And everyone says same old Jets, like death taxes, same old Jets. Death taxes, same old Cowboys. Death taxes, sorry, Stu, same old Raiders. There's just certain teams that it's the same old, and then you could just insert the team name. But the Jets have a damn good team. Garrett Wilson, damn good wide receiver. Breece Hall, damn good running back. Sauce Gardner, damn good corner. Quinnen Williams, damn good defensive lineman. Aaron Rodgers, damn good quarterback. But what's going to make or break this team is the offensive line. And you could go make the additions they did this offseason where it's an improved offensive line, but can the offensive line stay healthy? And if you're able to give Rodgers a little bit of time, the Jets have potential to go to an AFC championship game this year. They do. I'm not telling you they are, but I think that's the Jets' ceiling. I know the Jets have one of the better rosters in the league. I can't envision the Jets in a Super Bowl. I know my buddy Jake Aspman, who's like a huge Jet fan and does a bunch of national radio, and when we go out for dinner in the city, he'll be like, why can't you say the Jets can't be a team that goes to the Super Bowl? I just don't feel it. I think they're going to be very good, but I think their ceiling is going to an AFC championship game and losing in the AFC championship game, or being like a 9-8 team that misses out in the postseason. Nothing will really surprise me with the Jets this year outside of them actually getting to the Super Bowl and hoisting that Lombardi trophy. But they have a good team. And I'm seeing some of these reports from OTAs yesterday. See, I feel bad for someone like a Connor Hughes, who it's his job. A lot of people would love to do what Connor Hughes does for a living, and he's a very good NFL reporter here locally in New York for SNY covering the Jets and the Giants. But he has to go to OTAs yesterday, and he has to write a story. And I'm going to make fun of Connor Hughes' story right now, but Connor's just doing his job. But when you're typing, Aaron Rodgers was surgical, Garrett Wilson dynamic, and Sauce Gardner sounds ready to travel. Reports from Jets First Media Open OTAs. Click here. It's like, come on. Everyone yesterday slobbering over Aaron Rodgers and what he did on a football field in practice. That's when it gets a little insufferable for me. However, Aaron Rodgers brings Jets fans hope. He brings optimism because it ain't Zach Wilson and it ain't Sam Darnold and it ain't all those other bad, crappy quarterbacks that the Jets have had for so many years. Rodgers, like him or not, is a great quarterback. Has his career been a little bit disappointing when you only won one Super Bowl and it was early in your career and you haven't got back to another one and you had many other opportunities to get there? Yeah. It's unfulfilling, but he's a top 10, top 15 quarterback of all time. He's going to the Hall of Fame. And when we say he's only won one, there's a lot of guys that would only want to win one championship. So Rodgers brings the Jets hope. And I think they could be anywhere from a team that just misses out in the playoffs or a team that's in the AFC Championship game. That's how wide-ranging the AFC is and how good the AFC is. Like the Bills, I think, are going to be better than people expect. We'll see if the Dolphins can put it all together. You know, the Jets are going to be solid. The AFC North, all four of those teams can win that division. That's how good the AFC North is. The AFC South, that's a damn good division too. I expect the Jags to bounce back. The Texans are going to be really damn good. The Colts were good last year without their quarterback. You know, Tennessee had a nice offseason. We'll see the Harbaugh effect in the AFC West. You know, Mahomes is Mahomes. He's the standard. But there's going to be some good teams that are missing out on the postseason this year in the AFC. But Rodgers brings, even though I'm having fun with the inane reports from training camp, Rodgers brings hope to Jets fans. So, with that being said, who is a player entering this NFL season in the NFL that brings hope and optimism to a fan base? We'll go around the room here. We'll get Botcher's opinion. We'll get Stu's opinion. I'll start off. I think mine is fairly obvious. It's Caleb Williams. The Chicago Bears haven't had a QB in forever. Statistically, I'm not saying he's their best quarterback in franchise history, but statistically, smoking Jay Cutler is their best quarterback. Like, think about that. Cutler of the Bears statistically they've never had a 4,000-yard passer. Never had a 4,000-yard passer. Like, Caleb Williams plays every game this year. He should have 4,000 yards this year. So, Caleb Williams is someone, number 1 overall pick. He gets that tag of being the transcendent, generational talent. We'll see if he lives up to that, because it wasn't that long ago that Trevor Lawrence had that tag, and he hasn't lived up to it yet. But you have a team that's ready to go. Like, that was a team that's 7 wins. They weren't the number 1 pick last year because of their own wrongdoing. They were the number 1 overall pick because they traded the pick a year ago to the Panthers, and the Panthers stunk this year. So the Bears have a team where on offense, they beefed up the line. You have 3 good wide receivers. DJ Moore. You have Keenan Allen. You just drafted Rome Odunze. You got DeAndre Swift at the running back. You got Cole Kmet at tight end. That's a lot to work with. And I think the NFC is better than what it was last year. And I went through the wins and losses the other day, and I predicted the Bears to go 9-8. I think the Bears are making the playoffs in year 1 of Caleb Williams. And I think Caleb Williams brings hope that the Bears haven't had in a long time at the quarterback position. So as long as he could just be above average in year 1, I think the Bears are going to have a season that's going to bring even more and more hope and even more excitement at the end of the year for 2025. So Caleb Williams is my player with the Bears. Stu, who do you got?
Mine is Kirk Cousins of the Atlanta Falcons. I think the Falcons at a 7-10 last year, they showed that they have the building blocks to be a good team. They just needed a quarterback. And now, hopefully he's healthy, but if he's healthy, I think you have a quarterback, and that kind of puts them, easy division. They should be the best team in the NFC South by far. And I also think they can compete for the NFC if things break right. But just having that quarterback, I think, will be so key for them.
By the way, when we're streaming with the cameras, no, nothing's wrong. But I'm looking at you, and I'm looking completely off camera. But isn't it awkward when you're talking, if I turned, and now the people that are watching on YouTube, they see me looking right in the camera, but it looks like I'm not listening to anything you're saying if you were talking.
Yeah, you're just drifting and looking away from me. Yeah.
So if I'm ever doing that where I'm looking dead on at this camera, I'm not ignoring what you're saying. Now, if Samter was standing there,
then you'd ignore it. We all ignore it.
Yeah, honestly, I would barely even see him, quite frankly. So I could just look straight there. But Stu's a little bit taller, stands up a lot more than Samter's usually sitting down, slouched over.
He stands.
Does he?
He's just short. Yeah.
Oh, sorry about that. How tall are you?
Like 5'6", 5'7". I'm not that tall.
Really?
Yeah.
I thought you were like 5'8".
No, I'm probably like 5'7".
So you're probably 5'7", so you're 5'6", 5'6 and a half.
Yeah, that's why I said that.
Yeah. Botcher, how tall are you?
I am 5'6"3/4.
5'6". See,
the 3/4 matters.
See, that's a legitimate height. Because like Stu's like, I'm what'd you say, probably 5'7"?
Yeah. On my license, I'm 5'8".
On my license, I'm 6'2". And I'm taller than 6'2". I'm 6'4". But when you give me, what did you say, 5'6" and
3/4?
I can't mess with that height. Because that is such a specific height, it has to be true.
It was a couple years ago, so it might be off.
Now, you think you shrunk a little bit?
No, the other way. I think I got taller a little bit.
I don't know. Usually when you get older, you shrink a little bit.
I'm not that old.
Yeah, that's true. Botcher. People think I'm young. I found out today Botcher's 22. 22? I thought he was 24. So it's not that far off, but I didn't know you were 22. When did you graduate college?
Well, graduated fall of 22.
Man. You know, Ryan Botcher, pro's pro. Really is. He's rising to the ranks here at the Infinity Sports Network. But the Kirk Cousins one, Stu, I'm so conflicted about it because I was so excited for Kirk to go to Atlanta, but now with them drafting Michael Penix Jr., I don't want to hope that Kirk plays poorly, but I kind of want to just see Michael Penix Jr. play and Kirk go somewhere else, but financially they're probably 2 years away from that. So, Botcher, who's your player that brings you a little bit of hope going into this season? What do you got cooking for us?
Okay, hear me out. Ezekiel Elliott. I'm joking. That one's not being serious.
I was like, I'm going to hear you out here.
No, but in all actuality, Stephon Diggs takes the Texans from, we can win a playoff game or two to we need to start winning now. And AFC Championship game, Super Bowl, wouldn't be out of the question.
And they changed his contract where he's a free agent after this year.
It's do or die.
So now you have Nico Collins, you have the tight end Dalton Schultz, and you also have Stephon Diggs and C.J. Stroud, who I already think is the fifth best quarterback in football. Diggs, I'm wondering, how much of last year was him declining because he's getting up there in age for a receiver, or was it him just being unhappy in the situation that he was, and that's why you didn't see him have a 100-yard game since like October and a touchdown since the game Thanksgiving weekend up against the Eagles. But I like that because you're right. It gives the feel, if you're a Texans fan, wow, we're not just complacent off being good and just going to rest off that. We're trying to get over that hump and take advantage of it now while Stroud's on a rookie deal. It's a good answer.
I thought Diggs wasn't trying that as hard as he could.
Oh, I agree with you.
In Buffalo.
I agree.
There's no chance he didn't have 100 yards for the last couple weeks. So.
No, it was since October.
Since October. Yeah, there's no way he's not that bad anymore. You don't drop off like that.
Well, you could, but I think it's a mixture, Botcher, is what we're getting at. Yes, it's a little decline. He may not be a top 5 receiver again, top 7 receiver again, but I think with the motivation that he'll have this year, you'll see a drastically different Stephon Diggs.
100%.
And he still was over 1,000 yards this past year.
That's kind of crazy to believe.
But it was kind of
there's nobody else. Like
it was kind of like Jayson Tatum last night up until overtime. You look at the stats, you're like, he had a fine night, but you knew that it wasn't actually fun to watch the game. Stat patter. Never want to make those accusations, but we pretty much just did. Anyway, this is Zach Gelb Show on the Infinity Sports Network. We'll talk some pucks on the other side with Johnny Lazarus.
You're in a 5-minute break. Four minutes, 30 seconds remaining. Four minutes remaining. Three minutes, 30 seconds remaining. Three minutes remaining. 2 minutes, 30 seconds remaining. Two minutes remaining. One minute, 30 seconds remaining. One minute remaining. Forty-five seconds remaining. Thirty seconds remaining. Fifteen seconds. Break ends in 5 seconds.
You're listening to the Infinity Sports Network.
So a few years ago, I was asked to go on a podcast, and the name of the podcast was The Locker Room, and it was awesome. Great podcast, great time. I met one of the hosts, Johnny Lazarus, and we became very friendly. We went to a few Rangers games in the playoffs a few years ago, and Johnny is a former college hockey player and now is like a big media star. He went from The Locker Room to end up now hosting for the NHL, Daily Faceoff. And I see yesterday, because I follow Johnny on Twitter, and, you know, all of his Rangers content and hockey content, it comes up. And I see that they now have a top 5 podcast for hockey, which is, of course, the Blue Crew Pod. And make sure you check it out. So now a top 5 podcaster in the great Johnny Lazarus joins us in studio right now as we get set to talk some playoff hockey. Johnny, always great to see you. How you been?
I am as ecstatic as I could be. I mean, first of all, Zach, thanks for having me, especially in studio. Nice to be in person. But what's better than this, right? It's 80 degrees and sunny in New York City. We got Eastern Conference Final hockey upon us. The vibes are high, and it's been a really fun ride this year, and I appreciate the kind introduction.
Yeah, well, a lot of people, when they talk hockey, they don't know the game. Mm-hmm. And I think the players pick up on that. Like, we had Derek Stepan on the other day, and, you know, he could tell that I'm an actual fan, and I actually watch during the year because I watch all the Ranger games. But you played hockey, and I think the players pick up on that, and a lot of them that you grew up, and some of them you played up against and played with. But your questions, I think the players really do appreciate, and I think it creates a unique relationship around the league for you.
Yeah, there are some players that I try to bait them into some stuff, and they catch on. But one that stands out, which didn't go over so well, I asked Alexis Lafreniere this year after he scored that beautiful backhand shelf breakaway or shootout move on Columbus. Mm-hmm. I asked him how many times he was going to watch that highlight that night, and he goes, probably none. But some guys like Nick Cousins, who's on Florida, I was talking to him today, and last year during the Stanley Cup final, I asked him how many times he was going to watch his overtime goal against Toronto to send them to the conference final. And he was like, dude, I've been watching that like nonstop. Like, there are some guys who love to see how they look after they make a cool play, other guys who don't. But yeah, my questions, I try to always think a little bit outside the box and put myself in the situation. Not that I have ever been in the NHL or in an NHL game, but for me personally, I tend to understand what a guy was thinking in a certain spot.
Sure.
And I could put myself in those shoes, and that helps me with my questions that I form. And yeah, there are a lot of guys who look at me and kind of get confused as to like, people don't know me. They're like, oh, this is like how'd you realize this?
Well, you're playing into it now. The hockey look player
right now.
With the hair.
I don't know where the camera is. Where am I looking? But I got the beard, the hair. Yeah. I'm kind of all in. But yeah, it's been a really fun year. This is my first full season covering the team.
Oh, really?
So, yeah.
I remember you did last year in the postseason, the NHL show for the NHL.
Yeah, I started. I really started like my media career last year. For the past 3-4 years, I've been doing it on the side with a 9-to-5 job. I was working ad sales for the Tennis Channel.
Oh, wow.
Up until August, so it was always just kind of a side hobby for me, and something I love doing, obviously. And I had hoped that it would get to this point someday. But that's also been for me like another way of appreciating it. I didn't go to college to do this. It was something that kind of came up randomly. Like my coach at the Maccabi games actually in Israel in 2016 handed me a Powerade bottle and was like, go talk to the guys and we'll put videos on Facebook.
Oh,
and
wow.
That's how my whole
He was like, kid, let's be real.
Yeah.
You're not going to the pros.
Yeah.
We need you to start interviewing people. We're looking after your
Literally.
future.
Yeah,
That's pretty neat.
that's how it started. Yeah, it's pretty wild.
Johnny Lazarus here with us. All right, let's get to the Eastern Conference Final. I know you'll be in the building tonight covering it, talking to all the players after the game and the coaches. I'll be in there as well, but I'll be in a luxury box just drinking and eating and having fun, and hopefully the Rangers don't rip my heart out tonight.
I'm coming by for some sushi in between periods, by the way.
Feel free. I don't know if we'll have sushi. We may have like wings and grilled cheese and hot dogs and hamburgers, but you want to stop by, you're more than welcome. It's not my luxury box, so I'm not paying for it, so you could stop by, take whatever you want, 5-finger discount, all that stuff. But this series, I think, is fascinating because going into the playoffs, obviously I'm rooting for the Rangers, but the Panthers, to me, going into this postseason, pound for pound, were the best team in the sport.
Yeah, I think if you look back in February, unanimously, they were the sexiest team, right? Everyone's talking about Florida Panthers. They were the team to beat. When they came into the Garden in March, that was the measuring stick game. The Rangers win that game in a shootout. Mika Zibanejad scores that beautiful Forsberg goal. Bobrovsky, and you start to feel it there that the Rangers can actually be one of those, elite teams in the NHL. And now this series, there are a lot of similarities between the two teams. They have great goaltending. Their blue lines are strong. They have the top-end talent, which Carolina lacked a little bit in the last round. Like when it all came down to it, the Rangers' big guns got it done. Chris Kreider, the natural hat trick, which I'm sure we'll probably get to here in a bit.
Yeah, it was nuts.
It was insane.
I thought I was going to get kicked off a plane, honestly, watching that game.
Yeah, I forgot that you were on the plane watching that.
I thought I was going to get strapped but with duct tape on the plane to the seat. And I was going to get arrested when I landed.
But the thing about these two teams also, and a term that I got to shout out my boys at the Empty Netters, they threw around on their last episode. Last year, the Florida Panthers were that team that had like all those DVD moments, right? The championship DVD that you watch at the end of the year when they win the Stanley Cup, and there's all these like,
and it was unexpected too.
Unexpected. And the Rangers this year, they've had a lot of those too. I feel
absolutely.
It's been
magical. There's so many games. I forget what the number is. I think it was 31 going into playoffs. 31 comfort behind victories.
Franchise record.
I can't tell you how many times because my dad, my uncle, and I, we all text during these games. How I'm sitting there, I'm like, this game's over.
You send me Bob O'Reilly every game day. You didn't send it to me this morning.
Oh yeah, that's true. it did come on when I was working out. I had my Ranger playlist all ready to go. I will have to screenshot that to hopefully keep the good momentum going. But there's so many times where I'm texting with my uncle and my father, and we're like, this team's dead tonight.
Yeah.
And then they somehow find a way to win the game. It's just, I hate to say they're a team of destiny, because whoever you say is a team of destiny right now, they usually never end up winning the cup or winning the championship, and they end up losing the next round.
But that's the vibe.
But this team locker room is just so close, and you could tell it probably better than anybody being in there on pretty much a daily basis.
Yeah, but also on the flip side, I was in Florida's room today, and that team is fun.
Redemption.
They are fun, but also the group, the cockiness, the swagger that the Panthers have, like it is unmeasured to anyone else. Like it's up here. I get the fortunate experience to be in a lot of road locker rooms that come through MSG. That's like where my hub is for daily faceoff. So I'm always talking to road players and whatnot, and the rooms are all different. You could feel the temperature in every single locker room, and Florida and Colorado are like the exact opposite of the noise level. Like Colorado, they're locked in, they're focused. They take a very serious approach. Not saying that Florida or New York don't, but you can just feel the vibes in certain locker rooms, and the Rangers have that as well. But this team of destiny thing, which is what everyone's talking about, right? Like those moments, like the Kreider hat trick, Panarin to score an overtime goal, the guy that we've been so hard on to perform in the playoffs. He scores a huge goal in Game 3 in overtime to give the Rangers a 3-0 lead in the series. Shesterkin coming up big yet again. There's just so many different things that have happened.
The overtime winner even in Game 2 against the Hurricanes,
Trocheck.
a game that they got outshot in a big way.
Mm-hmm. And even Peter Laviolette, too, to go through the team he coached the last 3 years in the first round, the team he won the Stanley Cup with in the second round, it's a full circle thing for him as well. He played 12 NHL games in his career. Those games were the New York Rangers. He was teammates in the Olympics with Brian Leetch and Mike Richter, guys who won it in 94. Like, there's just so many different things that have happened that make you feel like this is really the year.
All right, from a national standpoint, when you look at this series, what do you think is, Johnny Lazarus, the biggest key when you look at both these teams for the Panthers and then also the Rangers?
Well, for the Rangers, it's going to be the same thing it has been all playoff long, and that's executing on their power play. Right now, the Rangers have, with Colorado being eliminated, the second best power play in the NHL behind the Edmonton Oilers.
And their kill's crazy,
and their kill is even better than Florida. Rangers better power play, better kill than Florida right now. Florida is like 1 for 13 on their last 13 attempts, and at 22%, the Rangers, I believe, are at like 31.7 or 37.4, around there. But either way, it's just such a big difference right now in special teams. So the Rangers have to find a way to continue to be opportunistic in those moments where Florida, listen, they have just as good of a goalie as Igor Shesterkin, and I don't want to take credit away from Igor because he's been phenomenal, but Bob is one of those guys that can also steal a game, just like Igor has shown. But for Florida, I think what they need to do, which everyone seems to be talking about as well, is get the puck in deep on the Rangers defensemen and just bully the crap out of them. Because the Rangers have
Do you think you need Rempe then in this series? Because it looks like they're not going to play him tonight. It looks like it's going to be Hedl in the lineup.
Yeah, so it's not going to be Rempe tonight from everything we've seen, but that doesn't mean we won't see him in Game 2. I think you feel out the emotion of Game 1 because Matt Rempe has been playing, 5 to 7 minutes a night?
Yeah, not a lot.
It's tough, but depending on how much extra crap Florida stirs up after the whistles, they're a team that is not afraid to do all the extra stuff, right? Like whistle blows, they're going to push you, they're going to shove you, they're going to get in your face, they're going to try to get under your skin, and you need a guy like Rempe sometimes to answer that and to counter that. But also, you don't want to give in to that and then take a penalty and then be down a man. So there's all these little things that go into it that Peter Laviolette, I'm sure by sitting Rempe in Game 1, wants to just feel it out. Because the worst thing that could happen is Florida comes out with all the emotion, Rempe feels that emotion in a Game 1 where there is more emotion than most games because it's obviously that feel-out process, and he takes a dumb penalty and they're shorthanded. So we'll see.
So that's my biggest concern because when the Rangers had Lundqvist, in most series they always had the goalie advantage.
Yeah.
The Rangers have Igor Shesterkin. In most series they have the goalie advantage, and usually it's by a wide margin. And this one with Bobrovsky, he's phenomenal.
Yeah.
And they don't have a clear big-time goalie advantage, and that's the biggest concern for me in this one.
Yeah, I mean, listen, the numbers would favor Igor, but also just because he saw twice as many shots in the last round than Bobrovsky did against the Boston Bruins. But with goaltending, it's not necessarily like who's going to make the most saves. It's who's going to make the timely ones, right? Like, so if the Rangers are, let's say, down 2-0 in the second period and Igor gets is facing a breakaway and he stops it, that could change the whole game.
Yeah.
And then just right from there, if the Rangers get it, like I think actually it was in the game in March, the Rangers were down 2-0 and they get a power play and then all of a sudden they're gone, So you need a timely save, and then that's what gets the bench alive. That's what gets the team alive, and then you go from there. So it's all about which way the momentum in the game is swinging for the goalie to actually have that kind of impact,
And then in the Western Conference, Peter DeBoer has everything on his resume besides the Stanley Cup. The dude is just always in the conference finals. Vegas, the Devils. We know now with the Stars, everywhere he goes, this guy finds a way to have a deep postseason run. And he goes up against Edmonton, who they have 2 top 5 players in the sport, the best player in the sport, McDavid, and you have Leon Draisaitl. This is a series to me where I think a lot of people from afar that parachute in are going to pick the Oilers because of because of the Stars.
Okay.
I'm talking about.
Well, that's confusing because they're playing the Stars.
Sorry, they're going to. You're right. They're going to pick the Oilers compared to the Stars. And I think a lot of people that parachute in are just going to be like, oh, because of the stars of McDavid and also Draisaitl. That's what they're going to do. But I think Dallas is the better team, and I think Dallas's goaltender right now, Ottinger, is playing at a ridiculous level, which wasn't the case last year. I like the Stars in this series.
Yeah, I think most people do.
You're right. That is very confusing.
It's confusing, right?
At first, I'm like, I don't think I said that. And I'm like, oh, they're playing these.
They're playing the Stars. Yeah. So we got to figure out a new word for maybe the Superstars.
Yeah, that works.
That helps. But listen, I know hockey and basketball have a completely different sort of. I guess I can't think of the word, but the way they're played, right? Like the NBA best players are on the court for 42 or 48 minutes. The NHL best players are on the ice for maybe 20 to 22. It's like 1/3 of the game. So if you're looking at this from the outside perspective and you see McDavid and Draisaitl, yes, they're going to have a big impact on the series and on every game, but they're not out there the entire game. So in the moments where those two aren't on the ice, who do they got to slow down Dallas? You know, who's going to possess the puck more when those two aren't out there?
And
it's going to be
youngsters
Dallas.
have been incredible.
Amazing. And the team depth in Dallas is so strong. They actually are very similar to Florida, but like in the West. So people say, you know, for ratings wise, Dallas versus Florida wouldn't be a great final just because of the markets and whatnot. But on the ice, that product
would be great.
It'd be awesome. But back to your point, like something with Edmonton too, which is crazy. Shout out to Ardo Cal who tweeted this, ESPN, like stats and info. Edmonton's the first team in NHL history to have 3 players with 20-plus points in the first 2 rounds. Evan Bouchard, Connor McDavid, and Leon Draisaitl. Bouchard's been so good in the back end as well. But this is a strong defense, great goaltending versus high-octane offense. So what do they always say? Defense wins championships. You got to assume Dallas will find a way to slow Edmonton down.
So you're picking Dallas?
I have Dallas in 6.
Dallas in 6?
But I'm rooting for Edmonton.
Okay.
Because I want McDavid Rangers final. Like that. What would be better than that? Best player,
be great
best
for
arena.
Messier.
Yeah. And Gretzky.
Yeah. You're right on that. And Rangers, I'm assuming you're taking over the Panthers?
Rangers 7.
Okay. They delivered us Mike and Ike's here. You like Mike and Ike's, right?
Not against them.
Could we do something fun here?
Yeah, what do you got?
Can I take a Mike and Ike, and one will represent the Stars?
Okay.
The other will represent the Panthers.
Okay.
If you catch the Stars one, the Stars will win the series. If you catch the Panthers
You're going to throw 2 at one time?
No, I'll throw them separately.
Okay.
Then the Panthers win the series. You in?
Sure.
All right.
Am I catching it in my mouth or with my hand?
No, with your mouth.
Oh, okay.
Yeah,
okay.
yeah.
All right.
I wash my hands.
You were
Don't
specific.
worry.
Yeah.
Gotcha. All right. This is the Dallas Stars.
Okay.
Let's see. I hope my arm is
Go
good
underhand,
here.
no? Overhand?
No, I think overhand.
All right.
Underhand, I don't know. I'm not a softball player. Ready?
Yep.
Oh! Are your teeth in today?
Fake ones.
Yeah, I
It was
think
the
if you had no teeth in
You
there,
heard
it
it,
would have
right?
been good. Ready?
Plastic teeth.
Now, this will represent the Florida Panthers.
Okay.
Good, you didn't catch it. I didn't want you to catch it.
I did not see that.
I don't want the Panthers to win
see
the
that
series.
coming. I didn't see that coming. Well, were you trying to hit me?
No, I was trying to throw it over your head.
If you hit me square in the
No, that would have been terrible.
Yeah.
That would have been a
All right.
lawsuit. I don't want Gary Bettman
I didn't
to
see
sue
that coming.
me.
I almost just pooped my pants. Also, your face. There was that felt personal.
Ready? I'll throw it lightly now.
Okay.
This is the Panthers. Please don't catch this. Good job.
Wasn't
Good job. Rangers are going to win the
Wasn't
series
even on
in
purpose.
7.
Wasn't on purpose.
He's Johnny Lazarus. How could everyone find you and tune into all the great content?
Everything I do is basically on Twitter, but would love it if you listen to my show, the Blue Crew Podcast, New York Rangers show, and then my Morning Cup of Hockey show every Monday through Thursday, 9 to 10 a.m. on the Daily Face-Off YouTube channel. Doing hockey basically all day, every day, and it's been a blast.
When you get inducted into the Hockey Hall of Fame one day,
Don't even say that.
as a broadcaster,
Okay, that'd be a dream.
I think I deserve a thank you or two.
You are one of my OGs.
Yeah.
So we went to Game 2, Rangers Carolina together 2 years ago.
That's right. A lot of beer.
Great game. Mustang Harry's before, right?
Yeah, Mustang
Yep.
Harry.
Yep.
And we met that, who was that guy, Joe or something? There was some older dude, Joe, who paid for the whole meal.
I don't even remember.
Yeah, it wasn't one of my friends. I thought you knew the guy. It was Joe and AJ.
Oh, we were with AJ and Alex and their dad. Yeah. The Castiglias.
Yeah, no, but it was some other guy from Connecticut.
Oh, I think Cody's friend, Joe Merlino.
Yeah, something like that. The guy picked up the entire bill and he
beauty.
goes, "Just follow me on Twitter."
UFO Joe. I think that's what he said. Beauty. But yeah, that's the best part of this, though. The Ranger fans and the community has been, we know Rangers Twitter can be a little bit crazy, but everyone that's out and about having a good time. We'll do another watch party for Game 6 of the series at American Whiskey. So if you're around, it's Saturday night, June 1st. So that'll be fun. It was a great showing last time, but yeah. Appreciate you having me here.
Well, appreciate you coming in. He's Johnny Lazarus. If you don't follow him, make sure you follow him because he is, to me, the social media voice of hockey is the way that I will say it. Let's get the latest Infinity Sports Network update in with Manny Rodriguez.
Infinity Sports Network. Sports Flash.
All right, Zach, the NFL announced today that the 2026 draft is headed to the Steel City. Pittsburgh, Pennsylvania will become the 10th city to host the draft since 2015. Green Bay, Wisconsin will host next year's festivities. NBA, for the first time since May 29th of 2004, Target Center will host a Western Conference Finals matchup. The Timberwolves are hosting the Mavericks, an 8:30 Eastern start from Minneapolis. The Wolves won the season series 3-1. NHL, the Kings have removed the interim tag on Jim Hiller. He becomes the 30th head coach in franchise history. The team went 21-12-1 under Hiller's watch. After a brief break, the Stanley Cup playoffs are back tonight. The Eastern Conference Final gets started. The Rangers are hosting the Panthers. The opening faceoff from Madison Square Garden is scheduled for 8 Eastern. Baseball matinees on this Wednesday. Royals are looking for win number 32 on the season. They lead the Tigers 8-3 in the 8th. Rain delay is over in St. Louis. Orioles lead the Cardinals 3-0 in the 5th. Earlier today, those two teams completed last night's suspended game, a 3-1 win for the Redbirds, powered by a 2-run blast by Nolan Gorman. Twins held on in the nation's capital. They beat the Nats 3-2. Guardians scored 6 unanswered to beat the Mets 6-3. And the Angels and Astros just win final. Halos win 2-1. I'm Manny Rodriguez.
You're in a 5-minute break. Four minutes, 30 seconds remaining. Four minutes remaining. Three minutes, 30 seconds remaining. Three minutes remaining. Two minutes, 30 seconds remaining. Two minutes remaining. 1 minute, 30 seconds remaining. One minute remaining. Forty-five seconds remaining. Thirty seconds remaining. Fifteen seconds. Break ends in 5 seconds.
It's an epic battle for the Infinity Sports Network. Sacked.
Lethargic, putrid, pathetic. Quitters. They're quitters. What a joke.
Bart.
Something fun to talk about. That's what we do here. It's like, hey, guys, it's like we're just hanging out at a bar talking sports.
It's time for Winkler Wednesday. Only on the Zach Gelb Show.
All right, it is a Winkler Wednesday. Bart Winkler here with us on the Zach Gelb Show. Bart, I've been thoroughly enjoying following you on Twitter the last 2 or 3 days more than ever before because I love your love for the Minnesota Timberwolves, and I'm also amused by the way that you are trying to start this beef with Indiana Pacers and their fans. So explain to me the origins here of your animosity with the Pacers, just as simple because the Bucks lost to them in the first round?
Yes. I mean, okay, but there's more. No, there's more. So, I'm a Bucks fan, right?
Yes.
We've established. That's canon. That's lore.
You got Bucks lost. You're from Milwaukee. Never heard that, by the way.
Yeah. Last year, the Miami Heat beat the Bucks in a series, and that sucked. But then the Miami Heat got to the finals in the East and took on the Boston Celtics. And Bucks fans, just like Knicks fans, just like pretty much any fan base in the East, you're not going to root for the Celtics if you don't have to, okay? So, but I didn't know what to do because so many times, if you beat the Bucks, you're going to the finals. That's what's happened like the last 6 years. So I didn't know who to root for. I watched the TV the first night, and I said to myself, there's no way. I'm rooting for the Heat. There's no way. Because the Heat, even though they beat my team, you know, they're still working hard. They're doing a good job. They're respectful of their opposition. With this playoffs, not only am I rooting against the Pacers, I am rooting for the Celtics in a way that I never knew I would. I mean, I'm fist pumping Jaylen Brown. Al Horford's 3 of 13 from 3. I'm like, keep shooting, Al. You'll get one. I don't like what has happened with the Indiana Pacers. If you know me and if you learn me, there's 2 traits that I find very valuable in humans, and that is genuine people and people that can stay humble. And I don't think the Pacers have any of that. Like last night, they were very, very respectful. Okay, if they lose on Thursday, Carlisle's going to go right back to complaining about something.
Oh, because
Tyrese Halliburton's celebrating every shot like he just got the first H in the game of horse. Like, relax, guys. Like, so it's as much that my team lost as it is that they like, yes, you got here, but you beat a broken Bucks team and a Knicks team that was a shell of itself. You don't need to go to the podium and say, hey, here's what's happened. We know we should, but the way that they act on court could be a little, nay, extremely better.
Let me ask you this. Just pick one word to describe game one between the Celtics and the Pacers. What's the one word that you used to describe that game that you saw last night?
I would say it was a breakthrough, I think, for Boston. Because I think what I described as what they've kind of been up to the last few years is, for any WWE fans, there is a particular match that is called a ladder match.
Yes.
And what happens in the ladder match is the belt hangs from the ceiling, and you have to climb the ladder
and grab
to get the belt. Yeah.
And sometimes there's guys that get to the top of the ladder, they grab the belt, and somehow they get knocked off, and the belt doesn't fall off.
Yeah. Yeah. And so how the match usually ends is everybody's like hurt or injured or just down for the count on the side. And then there's one guy that has the ring all to himself that can climb up the ladder, and he is the champion. And I think for the last few years, the Celtics have been that one guy.
Yeah.
But then they like forget how to climb the ladder or get to the top and can't get the, like they just, it's laid out for them. It has been laid out for them for years. And this year may be more laid out than ever for them to at least get back to the finals. And I think that the resolve they showed last night and the ability to unchoke the choke job is something that we haven't seen from them. They've only played, I think, like 3 clutch minutes prior to last night in these playoffs, with it being 5 minutes or less in a game and the game within 5. And so we don't know how they would respond to that. And that's normally a game that the Celtics would probably blow. And they haven't been tested in that game. They're either winning by 20 or losing by 20. But for them to do that, I mean, there's 10 seconds left. And all that the Indiana Pacers need to do is inbound. And somehow Jaylen Brown makes that play. And then Drew has a good pass to him. And then Jaylen Brown handles the ball in a way that Siakam's doesn't foul. So I think that could have been a big breakthrough for them to at least mentally know that, yes, it is our time and they can do it. So I'd say breakthrough.
Well, my word is disappointment. And the reason why my word is disappointment is because I was disappointed with the Pacers gagging that game away. Because the Celtics are going to win this series. But I at least would want a series that gives me a little hope. And even though they played well last night, they should have won that game. They didn't. I think you're going to get a much better effort, like you're saying, from the Celtics in game 2. But like the Celtics could sleepwalk through the East this year to get to the finals. So Tatum could go MIA in the fourth quarter. I know he played well in overtime. But he could go MIA in the fourth quarter, and they could still find a way to somehow win the game. I was disappointed, though, with Tatum, because for some reasons there's been games of the postseason, the fourth, where he's just not aggressive, and the Pacers defense, they did a good job, but I thought what we saw from him just in the fourth quarter, it kind of like makes me think, they get through and like they go up against Dallas or Minnesota. You know, I'm not thinking maybe the Celtics now win this thing just because the old Celtics of getting there but not getting the job done kind of popped up in that fourth quarter for a while.
Well, but then Tatum had a good overtime, I think. He made that big shot.
10 points in OT.
And then they have, like, the other thing that they've done is it's been Tatum and Brown, right? And they've been, like, having to change coaches for various reasons, but also trying to get better at every position. And I think Drew had the kind of impact that he has been sorely needing in a postseason game. They're going to get better out of Derek White. They're going to get better out of Al Horford. They'll get Porzingis back at some point. So they seem to be, I think, like, if you're going to have Tatum and Brown, they need to pick each other up when one of them is not performing how they should. And they did last night.
Last thing I'll ask you, Bart Winkler. Winkler Wednesday right here on the Zach Gelb Show on the Infinity Sports Network. Other series, Western Conference. I know you're going to take the Timberwolves because you become a Timberwolves honk. But why do you think the Timberwolves will beat the Mavs, in your opinion?
Okay, so I kind of think the Mavs might win.
Wow, and you've been Mr. Timberwolf.
Well, I took the Timberwolves before the Nuggets series, so a small wager for them to win.
So I'm jumping off the bandwagon now. Now you're joining Kyrie Irving and Luka Doncic.
I don't know. There's something weird about that team. They've been together for 3 months. Jason Kidd figured out how to coach. Kyrie is he's just a basketball player. That's
PJ
weird.
Washington has been playing well.
Is Ray Allen.
Yeah.
I don't know what is going on. I would probably say Timberwolves still, but there's no chance, no way. More so because the Mavs don't know how to do it, that this series goes less than 6. This will be a good series.
Yeah,
but
I think so.
Minnesota's got to get it right tonight first.
He is Bart Winkler, the host of the Bart Winkler Show. You can listen to it weekdays right here on the Infinity Sports Network from 10 p.m. to 2 a.m. Very nice hat today, Bart. You look like you could be a NASCAR driver.
NASCAR hats are pretty dope. If that's a word people use.
You getting into any fights like what we saw over the weekend with those two fighters?
I understand, dude. Road rage is real and getting worse, so I get it. If there's going to be any sport where you want to fight after, why it would be NASCAR.
He is Bart Winkler. Listen to him tonight. Bart, thank you.
Thank you.
There you go. Bart Winkler joining us. We'll go from Bart to Antonio Daniels next, as we'll talk all the craziness going on in the NBA.
You're in a 5-minute break. Four minutes, 30 seconds remaining. Four minutes remaining. Three minutes, 30 seconds remaining. Three minutes remaining. Two minutes, 30 seconds remaining. Two minutes remaining. One minute, 30 seconds remaining. 1 minute remaining. $45 seconds remaining. $30 seconds remaining. $15 seconds. Break ends in 5 seconds.
To infinity and beyond.
He's live. He's nationwide. This is the Zach Gelb Show. Here's your host, Zach Gelb.
And away we go. Hour number 3 of our radio program. That's right. It is the Zach Gelb Show on the Infinity Sports Network. Antonio Daniels, and I'm not just saying this because he's joining us. He's one of the best basketball analysts in the country. Quite frankly, he should be in the booth with Mike Brown doing these games on ESPN. And he's kind enough to join us right now on the show as a recap the Celtics and the Pacers game 1 of the Eastern Conference Finals from last night and get you set for the Western Conference Final that does commence this evening. With the Dallas Mavericks, obviously with Kyrie Irving and Luka Doncic going up against the Minnesota Timberwolves with the sensation that is Anthony Edwards. Antonio Daniels, my friend, how you been?
I'm blessed, Zach. How you doing, brother? Well, appreciate your kind words, man.
Well, it's just true. Like, I don't know how much you want to talk about this, and I love Jeff Van Gundy and Mark Jackson when they were together. Nothing against, well, I have a little bit against J.J. Redick, but so I can't say nothing against J.J. Redick, and then you have Doris Burke. Breen's great. It just doesn't feel like a crew that should be calling the Eastern Conference Final. It just didn't have a big-time feel last night is what I thought.
Oh, well, for me, I think Doris Burke's great. I think J.J. Redick is great, and I have all the love in the world for Mike Brown. I don't have an issue with it. I know when you have when you're accustomed to a booth with Mark Jackson and Van Gundy and Mike Brown, and that's no longer there. It's hard to replace. You know, we keep hearing on TNT, this is the last year for Inside the NBA. You know, and if that's the case, can anything replace that? You know, it's very, very tough to replace something that you're accustomed to. And we were accustomed to hearing the booth with Breen and Van Gundy and Mark Jackson. But, I mean, you know, Doris Burke and J.J. Redick and Mike Brown, you know, I think it just, especially for Doris Burke and J.J. Redick, Mike Brown's a fixture. Yeah. It just takes time to develop that symmetry that those guys took time to develop that we got accustomed to.
Do you think, by the way, because we already saw Doc leave that booth, it kind of feels like J.J. Redick's going to be the next coach of the Lakers. Like, that's just how I feel what's going to play on out. Who do you think will be coaching the Lakers next year?
I don't know. I mean, for me, it comes down to what are the Lakers looking for? For me, what are they looking for? I honestly...
I don't think anyone has a damn clue.
But for me, Zach, and we've discussed this on our Sirius XM show, is it a good idea to hire a rookie head coach into a championship or bust scenario? Is that a good idea? Bringing Adrian Griffin into Milwaukee was unfair to Adrian Griffin, right? Bringing Darvin Ham into the Lakers was unfair to Darvin Ham because no matter what the expectation is, they can't meet it. Because there's an amount of grace that's given to coaches with the championship resume. Example, Adrian Griffin won 70% of his games and got fired. But Doc Rivers comes in with the championship pedigree because he won a championship with the Celtics. Now is viewed different, even though he did not have the same success that Adrian Griffin experienced. It's just seen as different for whatever reason. I don't know what the Lakers are looking for. So the question I would ask you, Zach, is what is their identity? Offensive or defensive?
It's a great question. I think their identity is outside of the coaching search, whatever LeBron wants this offseason. Because I think LeBron's coming back. Davis is going to be there. They'll try to go get Donovan Mitchell. I don't think the Cavs are going to trade him to the Lakers, but I think that they're tied to LeBron still as long as he still wants to be there. So whatever LeBron wants to do, but then it doesn't make sense why LeBron's not picking the coach, supposedly.
Okay, so if that's the case, right? If their identity is what LeBron wants their identity to be, then how can they make the correct hire? Right? James Borrego, who was in New Orleans this past year, is a great offensive mind. A great offensive mind. Very knowledge. You saw what he did in Charlotte with his time in Charlotte, improving that team every year that he was there. Coming to New Orleans this year, being the associate head coach behind Willie Green. You see what he did with the offense this year. If you're not looking for an offensive coach and you're not looking for a defensive coach and you don't have an identity, what exactly are you looking for, or who, should I say, are you looking for to become the next leader of the Los Angeles Lakers?
And
difficult question.
The other thing that I'll say, and I know it can't with the CBA, and I'll get a bunch of people that will always tweet me this, it's almost like LeBron should just be the player coach and coach the team. I know it can't happen, but that's just the way that I kind of feel this should all play out.
Yeah, I mean, but you could say that for a lot of teams. You can say that for a lot of teams.
Suns,
Durant. Like, this is a star-driven league. And I don't mean this in disrespect to coaches, because I feel like a lot of coaches, regardless of the situation, they're swimming upstream, right? When Adrian Griffin got fired, for me, that's on Damian Lillard and that's on Giannis Antetokounmpo.
Agreed.
You know, when those guys get fired. When Darvin Ham gets fired, that's on LeBron James and that's on Anthony Davis. This is a player-empowered league. Does Frank Vogel get fired if Devin Booker and Kevin Durant and Bradley Beal really want him there? Does that happen?
Absolutely.
Probably not. Right. So players have to have some accountability in this whole thing. But on the other side, how much do players actually want to be held accountable?
They
is
don't.
my question.
And that's the biggest problem. It's like Kevin Durant, we know him and Booker are the reason why Vogel's no longer the coach. You know, even Darvin Ham with the Lakers, it's LeBron didn't want him anymore. Anthony Davis didn't want him anymore. And you never hear that side. It's like, I don't make the decision, when we know down deep, LeBron pretty much runs the Lakers and Kevin Durant runs the Suns.
Right. So for me, if I'm interviewing to be a coach, if I'm interviewing to be a head coach, I need to know that I have the backing of the front office, right? Organizational chemistry is so incredibly important.
Well, that's why you take a 5-year contract, Antonio.
For sure, 100%. But I also need to know that if my star player wants to challenge a call and I don't agree with him, that I'm not going to get fired because I chose not to challenge. I need to know that the front office has my back, right? As a coach, I'm going to have the back of my players. But that doesn't mean I'm going to acquiesce to everything that the players want, because then I can't do my job to the best of my ability. My job is to coach. My job is to put you in a position to be successful. That doesn't mean that Frank Vogel, that doesn't mean that Darvin Ham, that doesn't mean that Adrian Griffin is going to do everything that appeases star players, though. And let's not confuse this here, Zach, because this is the star player conversation. Role players need not apply, right? We're not talking like if Malik Beasley goes to the front office and says, look, I don't want Adrian Griffin here. Like, yeah, that's not how it works. That's not how this whole thing works. Jared Vanderbilt, if he goes and says, I don't want Darvin Ham, that's not how this whole thing works. These are star player conversations we're having.
Well, I'll tell you who the perfect coach would have been. And it was funny because this was the one pushback they kind of gave a LeBron guy. It would have been Ty Lue. And it all goes back to that contract a few years ago. I think they only wanted to give him a 3-year deal, and he wanted a 4-year deal.
See?
He would still be the coach there if that was the case.
No question. And for me, that's a different case, because there's a difference between organizational chemistry and organizational arrogance, right? And I think what the Lakers practiced there was organizational arrogance. Almost saying like, you know, you're better. We don't need you if we don't need you. Like, no, yes, you do. Because Ty Lue is that good of a coach. And what you chose to do was not give him what he deserved. It's almost like free agent situations with players. With Dallas, what they did with Jalen Brunson. Right now he leaves, he goes somewhere else, and he blows up, knowing that he was the perfect fit right in there with Luka in the first place. So now you spent the last 2 years trying to replace Jalen Brunson with Kyrie Irving. There's a difference to me between organizational arrogance and organizational chemistry. And I felt that the Lakers have an organizational arrogance that's tough for any coach to come in and meet or exceed the expectation that is there.
Talking to Antonio Daniels, let's get to the game last night. I was disappointed in the fourth quarter because I thought Indiana just gagged away that game. And I know Tatum had a great overtime, and they'll get to the finals. The Celtics, they will definitely be in the finals. He's going to have to play a lot better than what he did. I know he redeemed himself in overtime, but he's going to have to play a lot better in the fourth quarter if that's a team that wants to beat whoever comes out of the Western Conference in a few weeks.
Yeah, it's tough, man. It's watching that game yesterday, it felt like Boston was going to pull away, and then Indiana does what Indiana does. They show grit, they show fight, and they work themselves back in the game. And they did everything they possibly could to get that game away, Zach. Everything that they possibly could to give that game away. They gave Jayson Tatum an opportunity to redeem himself because, like you said, in the fourth quarter, he wasn't there. Without that overtime period, we are having a completely different conversation today about the Boston Celtics. But there are a couple things that continue to happen. My first thought was Rick Carlisle has been put in this position a couple times in the postseason. Right, up 3 with you can do the clock. 15 seconds left, 18 seconds left, 20 seconds left. And certain coaches stand by this. Certain coaches will say, look, we're going to go ahead and play this out. We're going to play it out. Other coaches will say, we are going to foul. And it's come back to bite the Indiana Pacers a couple times this postseason already in choosing not to foul, as opposed to allowing it to play itself out. And again, last night, obviously, along with a couple of inexperienced turnovers, that proved to be the difference in game one. And I tell you what, Zach, it is so hard. Like, it's amazing to me how much one game can make, how much of a difference one game can make. Because I feel like this is going to be very, very difficult for Indiana to recover from.
Absolutely.
Imagine the conversation we're having today if Indiana leads that series 1-0, as opposed to being down 1-0 the way they are.
So when Carlisle talks to the media last night, because I think he said he instructed Siakam to foul or the team to foul, but then because of the positioning, Siakam, he thought, then elected not to do so. Do you believe with what you were just saying, Carlisle actually saying he told his guys to foul?
Yes, because Carlisle's not the type to throw his guys under the bus. That's not his nature. That's not what Rick Carlisle does. If he comes on a post-game presser and says, you know what, I told guys to foul, but because of the positioning, when Jaylen Brown caught that ball, Pascal Siakam didn't think that he could actually foul, then Rick Carlisle told his guys to foul. He did. I don't have a problem with that. We've seen Rick Carlisle not throw his guys under the bus, but publicly challenge his guys. Sure. Challenge his guys. And there's a difference between challenging guys and calling out guys publicly. Rick Carlisle does a fantastic job at challenging his guys. When you looked at game 6, against the New York Knicks, when he was asked what they needed to do to win, he said, you know what? We have to play harder like the Knicks are doing, and we have to rebound the basketball. That's a way of not calling your team out, but publicly challenging your guys to play harder and be better. And they responded in game 6 and also in game 7. So if Rick Carlisle told his guys to foul, I believe that he told his guys to foul, because that's not in his nature.
What do you think happens in game 2? Because you were kind of alluding to it. I kind of think, and the Celtics have struggled in the postseason in game 2s. They're 0-2 so far. I think since they got away with one last night, you're going to see a different Celtics team in game 2, and they'll go back to Indiana up 2-0.
I agree. But I tell you what, man, there is something that's not there with Boston right now. And I've been saying this all playoffs. You can look at the fact that they ran through the Miami Heat first round, right? They ran through the Cleveland Cavaliers second round. And yesterday they had a rough game 1 and still found a way to win. there is something to be said about this team, execution-wise, that's missing. There's a lot of individual. There's a lot of one-on-one. Let's go one-on-one. It's a your turn, my turn scenario between Jayson Tatum and Jaylen Brown. And that gets them into trouble. Their offense looks so difficult sometimes. I do agree with you, though. I think when you look at the way that game one went down, I have a hard time seeing Indiana respond and think that they can play any better than what they did last night in Boston and then win game two. I'm with you. I think it's 2-0 going back to Indiana.
Antonio Daniels, a great job, Sirius XM NBA Radio. So take the teammates out of this, just dynamic duos. You have Tatum and Brown, you have Halliburton and Siakam, you have Luka and Kyrie, and you have Anthony Edwards and Karl Anthony Towns. Who's the best remaining dynamic duo in the NBA playoffs?
Ooh. I know who it's between for me. It's between the two out of the Western Conference for me. I felt like Luka and Kyrie were the most dangerous coming in. Like, I felt like Dallas was the most dangerous team coming into the playoffs, especially in the West. Anthony Edwards has obviously taken another step. And Karl, for me, okay, I will say this. I'll say this. Out of all of them, I'm going with Kyrie. I'm going with Kyrie and Luka.
I agree.
I'm going with Kyrie and Luka.
Because here's the thing. Luka, I think, is the best player pound for pound remaining in the postseason. So when you do it with the ones, that's how I go there. And then for the twos, Kyrie, the problem is, will he just be locked in? And he's locked in now. So he's a top 10 player when he's locked in.
Yeah, that's a toughie. Because
He's got to remain locked in for 3-4 more weeks.
For me, it's not generally about Kyrie. Mm-hmm. Because I agree with you to a certain. Here's the question I would ask you, Zach. You said Luka's the best player. Has Luka been the best player this postseason?
No, it's been Anthony Edwards.
Right. And that's it. Now, we're not talking about going all the way back to the first week of October, second week of October in training camp. Because all that really matters is from the second week of the playoffs on. It's the second week of the season, the postseason on. That's really all that matters. It's because that is a great question.
Because here's why. No offense to Halliburton and Siakam, they're fourth. You could tell me out of the other three, you could order them any way you want, 1, 2, and 3, and I'm not going to argue it. I put yesterday when we did this question, Luka and Kyrie 1, and then I went Cat and Edwards 2,
That's what
and then I put Tatum
too.
And Brown 3.
Agreed. Because for me, it's the second week. Man.
We stumped you. It seems like you want to say Minnesota.
No, but for me, it's the second week of April on when you start looking at it. Because, and realistically speaking, Luka has not been that great in the postseason. He hasn't been that great in the postseason. He's had some good games here and there. He's been kind of up and down. When he leaves the officials alone, completely different basketball player. But in the postseason that starts the second week of April up to now, the best player has been Anthony Edwards. It has been Anthony Edwards. I know for me, I have a different love for Kyrie Irving's game. He's one of the only guys in this league that if I wasn't blessed to do what I do now, that I would actually pay my hard-earned money to watch play. And him and Luka have figured some things out. Last year when Kyrie got traded there in February, it was a struggle to the point where people were questioning, oh, you know what, this can't work and all these other kind of things. Then they signed him, re-signed him in the summer. Contracts bring confidence. Now you have Kyrie Irving coming back into a situation with Luka. They done figure some things out, whether they're on the floor together or staggered. They figured something out. I'm still going to go with those two. I think that's the most skilled backcourt in history. I'm comfortable saying that. If I can say on one hand that's the most skilled backcourt in history, I can definitely say they're first on that list 1 through 4.
Antonio Daniels, last thing I'll ask you. Obviously you're very optimistic about the Mavs. I can't crush you for that whatsoever. But when you look at this series, Mavs and Timberwolves, and the way that you've been hyping it up, who are you going with?
I'm going Minnesota. So I'm not as optimistic as you think. I'm optimistic on those two, on that backcourt. But when I look at the way that the Minnesota Timberwolves are built, not just the size across the front line, the thing I feel like is so underrated about the Minnesota Timberwolves, a lot of credit goes to Rudy Gobert for being Defensive Player of the Year and being the anchor of the number one defensive rated team. But the fact of the matter is, and we saw this when Rudy Gobert was absent from the birth of his child, they have excellent point of attack perimeter defenders.
Naz Reid's great.
Well, Anthony Edwards, it's a great defender, right? Nickeil Alexander-Walker is a great defender. Jaden McDaniels is a great defender. When you have excellent point of attack perimeter defenders, and again, I don't mean to discredit Rudy Gobert, it makes his job a little bit easier. If you have guys that are quote unquote traffic cones on the perimeter, it makes your job a lot tougher because now you constantly have to rim protect. Rudy Gobert doesn't have to rim protect like that, like he has in years past, because of the guys that he has on the perimeter. That was the difference. Jamal Murray struggled, right? Jamal Murray struggled against this Minnesota Timberwolves team. Why? Because they have excellent point of attack defenders. They're long, they're lengthy, they're athletic, and they have excellent defensive IQs. Kevin Durant and Devin Booker and Bradley Beal, they struggled against this Minnesota Timberwolves team. It wasn't because of Rudy Gobert. It's because they have excellent point of attack perimeter defenders. And now we're going on to Kyrie Irving and Luka. I'm interested to see the way this series is officiated, but I am going with the Minnesota Timberwolves for that reason. We can look at their Rudy Gobert Defensive Player of the Year, but for me, it's about their point of attack perimeter defense that sets them apart, along with Rudy Gobert anchoring it.
He is the sensational Antonio Daniels. Make sure you listen to him weekdays on SiriusXM NBA Radio. Thanks so much, my friend. Always great to talk to you.
For sure, Zach. Appreciate you, brother.
You got it. There he is, Antonio Daniels. I could listen to him talk basketball all day, but if we kept on going, I think my bosses would have said, wow, you're way, 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 way late for a break. So we don't need to upset the bosses. We'll come on back.
You're in a 5-minute break. Four minutes, 30 seconds remaining. Four minutes remaining. Three minutes, 30 seconds remaining. Three minutes remaining. Two minutes, 30 seconds remaining. 2 minutes remaining. One minute, 30 seconds remaining. One minute remaining. .45 seconds remaining. .30 seconds remaining. .15 seconds. Break ends in 5 seconds.
You're listening to the Infinity Sports Network.
Yo, yo. Zach Gelb Show right here. Infinity Sports Network. Getting set. Hoops tonight. We also, obviously, got pucks as well. I'll be at the Rangers and Florida Panthers game at the world's most famous arena, Madison Square Garden. And we also have the Western Conference Final getting underway as well. Manny Rodriguez is going to give us a sports update in a bit. My condolences, my dear friend, about your New York Knicks.
Yeah, it still hurts. Wound is still fresh.
Yeah, but
I've got no reason to live. Give me a reason to live.
I'll give you a reason to live. Step back from that ledge, my friend. I don't have the guitar in hand to start to serenade you, but I know you don't want to hear this because of the fact I would respond the same way that if someone told me this, I'd still rather lose in the next round. Jalen Brunson's not playing in that series with that fractured hand. Bogdanovich already out. Randall already out. Mitch Robinson already out. Hardenstein with the shoulder. OG Anunoby looked like he was holding a number 2 when they ran him on the court in that game 7. You would have got annihilated by Boston.
Yeah, I understand. I know that they would have been annihilated by Boston. Probably would have been swept by Boston considering all the injuries that were there. 5 games if the Knicks were healthy. But again, big old if.
Yeah.
They probably would have taken the Celtics to 7. I thought that the Knicks' ceiling would be the Eastern Conference Final. I thought that.
Oh, that's fair.
After
so you're realistic.
I thought, after the team went 14-2 in the month of January, I figured to myself, oh, wow, this team actually has a legitimate chance to go to the Eastern Conference Finals. Unfortunately, they came up short of that. They came up a win short of that. But you know what? I just can't get it out of my head that the Knicks ended up in the same position as they were last year. Eastern Conference semifinals out. All he did was just play one more game on the season.
Yeah,
more
but
or
this
less.
was a better season this year than the year before.
Yeah, and that's why they should have made the Eastern Conference Finals. This is a better team than it was last year. But you know what? Injuries.
But you have hope and optimism and consistency, which you have never had in your lifetime. And you are one player away from being a title contender. A star player.
I wouldn't hate running it back with this team, though.
Milwaukee's going to be better next year if they're healthy.
Yeah, you see.
Miami, if they're healthy. If they have Jimmy Butler, which I don't know if they will. They may trade him. You would think they would be better. You still need another star. I know that, right? The grittiness of this team is fun, and Knicks fans are a little delirious over it. It's a very good team. I'm not taking anything away from what they accomplished. You need another star.
But, I mean...
You could argue Julius Randle.
That's what I'm saying. 25 and 10 every night.
I think Julius Randle even expects that he's going to get traded this offseason.
I think so, too. I mean, given what the Knicks have in regards to first-round draft picks and contracts that are tradable, from Bojan Bogdanovic's contract, Deuce McBride's contract is very tradable as well. I mean, yeah, you're gonna have to give some you're gonna have to take some to give some, right? Or whatever the saying is.
Who's the player? Who's the player you want?
I mean,
if I could say you could get realistically someone via trade, who is that player
right now? Damn, that's a good question, because I would
you want me to give you the options?
I would like Giannis Antetokounmpo.
Yeah,
however,
okay. and I want to go sleep with Margot Robbie.
You told me anybody.
No, I said realistically. Anybody realistically. You saying Giannis Antetokounmpo?
Well, if Giannis wants out, Giannis isn't happy in Milwaukee. You know that.
Stop. He just signed an extension.
Yeah.
Do you want to give Bart Winkler, who does the evening show here, a heart attack right now? You will be Bart's least favorite person if you start suggesting Giannis. Realistic options. Here we go. Donovan Mitchell.
We already have a ball-dominant guard. Continue.
Devin Booker.
Yeah, that was my answer about 6 months ago, but I don't know now.
Why not now?
Because, again,
you could use another shooter.
He needs the ball in his hand constantly.
As him very close.
As does Jalen Brunson. I mean, that was the name that I've been floating around since basically last offseason. Obviously, I didn't have the platform that I do now, but I'm good.
Oh, yeah. Okay.
I'm good. I mean, really, it was Devin Booker. Had you asked me this question 6 months ago, I would have said Devin Booker hands down, but I mean, you take a look at what has developed in regards to Jalen Brunson becoming a 1A, Becky Hammond. Dante DiVincenzo playing well and with a great contract as well.
Now, you know, in the NBA now, you can have multiple good guards. You know that, right?
Well,
why not? You go get Devin Booker, and you have a backcourt of Booker, DiVincenzo, and Brunson.
I mean...
You create depth, too, if someone gets hurt.
Yeah, but what happens down low? What happens down low? That's my main concern in regards to that. What happens down low? Who's getting the rebounds, offensive chances, aside from Isaiah Hartenstein? You might have to trade away Mitchell Robinson as well if you want to.
Oh, he gets injured every year.
Well, but you know what? It's still a pretty tradable contract, and he becomes expendable with the explosion of Isaiah Hartenstein. Now, of course, the Knicks will have to re-sign.
You love saying Hartenstein by
Hartenstein. That's how you pronounce it. I don't know. What do you want me to tell you?
I don't know. You just have a good enunciation with it. Or pronunciation.
They're going to have to re-sign Hartenstein. I fell in love with him last season, even though he played 30, 40-something games last
He's a free agent, right, this year?
Yes, that's
correct. He's probably going to get priced out of New York.
Yeah, that's the issue. I mean, the Knicks can only offer, I think, maybe $15 million. But, I mean, if a team comes up and offers him $18 per year, why wouldn't I take that?
Okay, here's the white whale name.
Oh, boy.
Here's the name that I think will throw you into a mental hula hoop, kind of mental pretzel. I think that's the expression. Kevin Durant.
Nah, man.
How do you like them apples? Why not?
Because,
Katie, don't you regret not coming to the Knicks?
I'm sure he does now, but you know what? I don't think the Knicks want Kevin Durant now.
I know the name that you want.
What's the name that I want?
Mikal Bridges. Go Nova Knicks.
I mean, he'd be great for the team in a role player type of position, but I don't. In regards to what everything else is around with the Knicks, I don't think
you are delirious.
I don't think he would make much of a dent.
What are you talking about? Now hold on.
Leaves me unimpressed. He's okay.
This is where you're gonna get screwed. You're gonna hate this because now I'm gonna start to sound like Draymond. You guys had a very good season. You guys are a very good team. You still need one more star.
No, and I understand. Mikal Bridges is not a star, dude.
But he would be your second best player. He'd be if Randall's not on that team, he's your second best player.
Well, if Randall's not on the team
but to get
with
Bridges,
Mikal,
you're not having Randall. And think about it from a chemistry standpoint, you basically put Nova back on the court. You may as well. Well, I don't. Tom Thibodeau deserves to keep his job.
What's Mikal Bridges' contract?
I don't know that.
It's like 2 more years, and he's getting paid like $25 million. It's like a steal.
That's a pretty good contract. Mikal Bridges, good player.
Doesn't really move the meter.
See, this is what you realize, world listening. The Knick fan now, after being in the gutter, in the basement, in the dumpster for all those years, they now think they're above adding other quality players.
No, I don't think they're above. I don't think they're above it.
You're out on Devin Booker. You just said it. You were in and now you're out. How are you out on Devin Booker?
I wouldn't be upset if they traded for Devin Booker. However, I just think maybe it would become too much of a guard situation. Too many ball dominant dudes trying to put the ball in the basket. Take a look at the Cleveland Cavaliers with Donovan Mitchell and Darius Garland, two ball dominant guards. Yeah, the Cavs are a perennial playoff team, but what do they do after that?
No, come on, the Cavs aren't at the same level as the.
But we're still talking about two ball dominant guards, same type of play style.
But you could win. You could still win that way. And also, Jalen Brunson sacrifices. He'll do whatever is in the best interest of the team. And Devin Booker is a better shooter than Jalen Brunson, shooting-wise. Not just from a shooting perspective. He's a better shooter.
So what? Jalen Brunson, Dante DiVincenzo, Devin Booker. Who are you going to have at the 4 if Julius Randle isn't going to be around?
Okay. Anyway.
You see what you did to my brain?
No, you did it to
Paul
yourself.
George. Paul George fits everything.
So, Botcher, you want Paul George.
Well,
I'm not even a Knicks fan.
He's also not.
I'm just, as a Nets fan, they need Paul George.
He's
He's size,
voice.
catch and shoot, defense, when healthy. And
when healthy.
Well, he was pretty healthy this year.
Yeah.
It could have been a lot worse. He fits what they need. And he's an upgrade over Randall 100% in the playoffs.
Paul George lately has become a better postseason player. There was a while where there may have been a talk show host here on the network that called him Playoff Pinocchio. Oof. I forget who that was. I think his name is Atch Felb or something like that, right? Something like that. I can't remember.
I heard that guy's a hack.
I heard he's a loser. Hot take artist, dope loser, moron. All righty, so I'll ask you this.
Okay.
Did you watch the Celtics game last night?
I was watching more of the Yankee game last night, but I was flipping channels, yes.
Celtics are going to win that series. We know that.
Yeah.
How many games are they going to win that series in? Because the Pacers fumbled the bag, as the kids like to say.
They did. They did, in fact, fumble it. But you know what?
It's going 5.
Yeah, gentleman's sweep. I still think it's going to be Celtics in 5.
And how about the other series?
Oh, God, please give me 7 games of that. I would love 7 games of that.
Okay, but who do you think's going to win? Timberwolves and Mavs. Everyone wants 7 games of this.
I will go. I think the T-Wolves' lack of experience will eventually catch up to them, and I think Kyrie and Luka will be able to propel the Mavs into the
But
NBA Finals.
here's the thing.
And let me tell you something.
Experience-wise.
Kyrie against Boston, that'd be nice.
What experience? Like, Luka Doncic has that much more experience?
Well, but I mean, he's got Kyrie Irving.
Because he went to a conference final with Brunson? Is that what you're saying?
And I mean, I do believe he also won a title in 2018 when Kyrie was second fiddle to some guy named LeBron James.
Oh, well, no, Kyrie does. But I mean, Kyrie, it's always just been mental when he actually wants to be on the court. We know he's one of the best players in the league. I think, the Mavs, I said going into the playoffs, they have a great dynamic duo. Mm-hmm. And they have a chance to go on a run.
They've really started to gel in the back half of the season, too.
I think the want-to from the Timberwolves is more there. And I think their defense is what's going to separate them from the Mavericks.
They're so good on defense.
Rudy Gobert didn't play game 2. They had one of the best defensive performances I've ever seen up against the Nuggets. So I'm going to go, especially with Edwards not playing great offensively in Game 7 and they still won. I just think they're the better team. So I'm going to go with the better team here. I'm going to take Minnesota in 6 games. All righty.
6?
Yeah, in 6.
Oh, okay.
6.
Can't choose 7.
I can't choose 7. It's a show rule now.
Oh, really?
One listener is very annoyed anytime we pick a series in 7 games. I think it's a cop-out.
Well, the Celtics, okay.
So we can't.
I digress.
I'm taking Rangers in 7, by the way, in hockey. So.
Oh, so I can't go Rangers in 7?
I'm just saying that's just what I'm doing. Some people think it's a cop out. Botcher, why are you throwing your thumb down?
Because it's funny. You can't go 7 now, and you're going 7.
Come on. So it's usually checks and balances here. Sometimes it's a dictatorship. That was one of those moments. And I'll take the Stars. Stars in 6 over the Oilers.
I mean,
they're a more well-rounded team. I know that you have McDavid and Leon Draisaitl.
Some stars on that Oilers team.
Yeah, well, I said that to Johnny Lazarus, who's in here. He's like, "Oh, that's confusing when they go up against the Stars." I was like, I think a lot of people pick the Oilers because they have the Stars, and he's like, "Wait, they're going up against the Stars." I'm like, "Oh, that was all messed up." All right, anyway, we will come on back with some of the biggest stories of the world of sports with some audio. We call that the news brief update time first. Here is the still tortured.
Yeah.
Your mustache, by the way, is getting long.
Should I do something?
No,
I actually have
I think you can curl it up.
Yeah.
You're close to curling it up territory.
That's what we're trying to do. We're trying to get the Raleigh fingers going. I got to find some oil, got to find some beard oils and stuff like that. So, yeah, that's definitely something that I'm trying to do.
I think you would rise through the company.
Oh, really?
Like when Boyle started to put the blonde patch in his head, started getting more shifts. I think if you curl up that mustache, people want to hear more of you.
It'll be handlebars, and then hopefully by December I'll have enough that I'll look like Raleigh fingers back in his prime.
All right, here he is, Manny Rodriguez.
Infinity Sports Network Sports Flash.
All right, Zach, TV contract news in college football. ESPN has reached a 5-year agreement to sub-license select college football playoff games to TNT. TNT will present 2 first-round games during the 2024 and 2025 seasons. In addition, TNT will broadcast 2 quarterfinal games in 26, 27, and 28. NBA, the Wolves will host the Mavs in Game 1 of the Western Conference Finals. Tip is scheduled for 8:30 Eastern. NHL, Rangers will host the Panthers in Game 1 of the Eastern Conference Final. Puck drop is slated for 8 Eastern. Baseball matinees are wrapping up. The Orioles and Cardinals are the only teams from the early window still playing. A rain delay aided that fact, but they're back to playing. The O's lead the Cardinals 3-1. Earlier today, those two completed last night's suspended game, and it was the Redbirds with a 3-1 victory. A Nolan Gorman 2-run blast in the 6th was the difference. The Royals get their 6th win in a row. They beat the Tigers 8-3. Guardians beat the Mets 6-3. The Mets have lost 20 of their last 29 games. The Twins picked up a key insurance run in the 9th. They beat the Nats 3-2. Angels pick up 3 hits, but they get the win over the Astros 2-1. I'm Manny Rodriguez.
This is the Infinity Sports Network. Follow us on Instagram. Our handle is Infinity Sports Network. That's Infinity Sports Network to follow us on Instagram.
You're in a 5-minute break. Four minutes, 30 seconds remaining. Four minutes remaining. Three minutes, 30 seconds remaining. Three minutes remaining. Two minutes, 30 seconds remaining. Two minutes remaining. 1 minute, 30 seconds remaining. One minute remaining. Five seconds remaining. Seconds remaining. Fifteen seconds. Break ends in 5 seconds.
Time for your daily news brief. We get you caught up on the rumors, reports, and reconnaissance from the day in sports.
It's time to answer our Ask the Pros question of the day. It's brought to you by O'Reilly Auto Parts. Adam in Des Moines, Iowa says, Zach, who do you like tonight in the Mavericks-Timberwolves game? You can submit a question by tweeting at INF Sportsnet or at Zach Gelb using the hashtag AskThePros. Think O'Reilly Auto Parts for all your car care needs. Get guaranteed low prices and excellent customer service from the professional parts people at O'Reilly Auto Parts. O'Reilly Auto Parts. I like the Timberwolves tonight. I think Timberwolves win the series in 6. I like the Timberwolves tonight. Spread's 4.5. I'd lay the 4.5 with the Minnesota Timberwolves. Let's go to Rick Carlisle. If there was instruction to foul before Jaylen Brown hit that miraculous three-pointer in the final 10 seconds of regulation last season.
Yes, but he caught the ball and he was faced up, so Pascal decided to lay off, which was, I understand, that's probably the right decision. You don't want to give up a 4-point play. So, look, a lot of things had to go wrong for us and right for them. They did. And so, we got to own it, and we got to get ready for Thursday.
And then Rick Carlisle continues to talk about why they lost, and he didn't bitch and complain about the officiating this time. He said, this loss is on me.
This loss is totally on me. With 10 seconds in regulation, we should have just taken the timeout, advanced the ball, and found a way to get it in and made a free throw or two and ended the game. But it didn't happen, and we made some other mistakes, but our guys just need to concentrate on fighting the way they fought in this game from start to finish, and we'll be back Thursday.
I don't know about you guys. I'll ask Botcher and Stu. He sounds defeated. And I get that's a demoralizing loss. You had the game won in regulation, and you couldn't get the ball in bounds, and then you allow a 3, and you couldn't make a shot on the other end. He seems like he's just absolutely demoralized and defeated after that game. Like, that does not... And I like Rick Carlisle for the most part. That does not speak like a coach who's right now very confident that his team's going to find a way to come on back in this series. And it's only one game.
He knows it's a missed opportunity. Mm-hmm. The way Tatum played that game, he's probably not going to play that way again. And at Boston, yeah, it's tough. They probably needed to win that game.
They had to.
To be fair, he does sound tired 95% of the time.
That's a good point.
He always sounds like he's running a marathon after every game.
Huffing and puffing. I bet you Shep would beat him in a marathon time, I'll tell you that.
And then host.
Yes. No, he produced that day. He produced Eye on Football. I was hosting.
Close.
I was like, ugh, Shep stinks. And he's like, I ran the New York City Marathon. I was like, wait, what? And then you ran to the show? And he goes, yeah, I beat Tiki Barber. So I'm like, oh, that's pretty badass, Shep. Good for you. Let's hear from Therese Halliburton. I wonder if he went to two tones here with the voice. He still believes it will be a long series.
We know we can play with these guys. I mean, that's for y'all to say that we don't, there's a lot of people out here saying we don't belong here. We don't really care. We know we belong. I think it's discouraging just because of the plays that happened, down the stretch. We feel like we were in position to win the game and just didn't win the game.
You can't drop that game. You got to steal one of the first two. I got to think the Celtics will be a lot better in game 2, and that was the game to win. And you failed to do so. I think this series is going to be over rather quickly. Once again, I've been saying Celtics in 5. So let's hear from Jaylen Brown. What was different from regulation to overtime where you saw the Celtics just be the better team?
What was the difference in overtime?
I think we just made some momentum plays. JT finally woke up, made some baskets, and we was able to make some plays towards the end. But we got to be better, to be honest. But I'll take the win tonight.
I love that. JT woke up, and he's right, because he did not have a good game in the first 4 quarters and then stood up and had a big performance in overtime, getting 10 points, and saved him from a lot of criticism. They lose that game in regulation, everyone is slamming. Every show across the country today is slamming Jayson Tatum, and he's got to be better if they want to win the NBA Finals. So a lot of people were annoyed with ESPN's coverage of Game 7 of Knicks and Pacers because they felt like it was too pro-New York. Tim Legler, who works for ESPN, was on the Ryan Russillo show, and he discussed this issue with ESPN's NBA coverage, and he wanted to talk more about the Pacers throughout the year.
And I wish I had video of all the meetings I've been in this year at ESPN when I wanted to talk more about the Indiana Pacers, particularly after they got Siakam. And it's just not sexy enough, So it's like, we kind of didn't talk about it. And I'm going, man, I watch this team every night, and I'm going, gosh, that's fun. Number one, fun style to play in. I envy these guys for being able to play in a system like this. But just how hard it is to guard, how hard it is to prepare when they have this many guys that can make shots and they don't waste one dribble. There's not one wasted dribble on the part of the Indiana Pacers over half court.
I could hear and listen to Legs talk about basketball all day. Tim Legler, I love it. I just hope when you're critical of the network you work on, the next time your contract's up, they don't hold that against you. That's the only thing I fear, because I would be very disappointed if ESPN ever got rid of Tim Legler. Let's go to Aaron Rodgers and the pressure to win this season.
If I don't do what I know I'm capable of doing, we're all probably going to be out of here. So I like that kind of pressure, though. I know there's, it's a tough market to play in. It's not for everybody. I relish that opportunity. As you get older in the league, if you don't perform, they're going to get rid of you or bring in the next guy to take over. I mean, it happened in Green Bay. So, and I'm, a few years older than I was back then. So I expect to play at a high level. I expect us to be productive and competitive and all that stuff to take care of itself.
He's towards the end of his career. I think it's a him decision, though. Like, the Jets are all in on Aaron Rodgers. It's when do you want to leave? I think he's on either hole 17 or he's teeing off on 18. Talking about golf, let me just play you this. This is Rory McIlroy. After he won a tournament, he was on CBS, and he had a heartfelt message to his mother. Just listen.
You're wearing your Mother's Day pink. You had some beautiful words that you shared with us yesterday about your mom. Your dad is a beloved figure in the golf world, and you said your mom doesn't get enough credit. So now's the time to brag about her, the impact that she's made on your career.
Yeah, my mom's amazing. I think most people know my dad, but my mom Rosie is like the sort of rock or the gel that holds our family together. She always has been, and I said this last night. I'm probably a lot more like my dad than I am my mom, but I wish I was a little more like my mom at times. So if you're watching, Mom, happy Mother's Day. Can't wait to see you tomorrow. And I'm excited to get home and see them.
So people may be saying, Zach, why are you playing audio for May 12th? Well, there's a big rumor in the golf world right now, and the New York Post has this story today. The lady who was doing the interview is Amanda Balionis, she was Amanda Balionis, then she was Amanda Renner, I think. And then I guess she's no longer married to her ex-husband, who's a former football player. And Rory McIlroy just got divorced. And there's a big rumor that, according to the New York Post, there's romance between the two of them. And it's been the talk of the golf community. And you go back, and it's like you hear Amanda doing this interview, and it's not really much you could draw, but then you see her looking at Rory, and Rory's talking about how he needs to be more like his mom. I'm just saying, I wonder if there's anything going on between those two. And that creates a little bit of an issue because she's covering golf. Jenny Dell, who I love, she was covering the Red Sox, and she ended up dating Will Middlebrooks, and she had to give up her job. She was eventually forced out. Now, they ended up getting married, but Rory, freshly off his divorce, I guess, I don't know when Amanda got divorced, but she's back to using her name, Amanda Balionis. And now there's rumors, according to the New York Post, that the two of them may be getting it on. And it's been the talk of the Lakes. All righty, that will do it today for the Zach Gelb Show on the Infinity Sports Network. Big thanks to Mack Brown. Big thanks to Johnny Lazarus, Bart Winkler, Antonio Daniels, each and every one of you. Thank you for listening. Big thanks to Botcher and Stu. We'll talk mañana, everybody, at 3 p.m. Eastern, noon Pacific. We out. Bye-bye. Go Rangers. Peace.